Oh, we're
Are we
live.
live?
Yeah, yeah. We just went for it.
No
I think
countdown today. Well, we're running a
yeah.
little bit late.
We're a little late, and the view is a little bit different. We're small boxes, but that's okay. It's Small Box
It's
Thursday.
Small
That
Box
sounds
Thursday.
that sounds dirty. But oh, there we go. We're big. We're big now. We've changed. We're
I
on
don't
different
know.
sides, but that's
I was
okay. So
kind of okay with Small Box Thursday.
I'm cool with whatever. I mean, I'm down with whatever. We are call-in-less today as a network.
Yes.
So we're all trying to fill in the gaps left by Colin, and those gaps are like the
Huge.
size of a freaking ocean. Colin does a lot. I mean, everybody does a lot, but Colin is really the tech guru, and
He is the tech guru. Without
that's right.
him, I'm like, what do I do with what now?
We're all running a little bit behind, and Zaina is having to wear many different hats, so many different hats. It's like she's in a Culture Club video. So we're all doing the best we can. There's a lot of hats in a Culture
There
Club
is a
video,
lot of
right? Like
hats. It's all
that, those
hats.
that was pretty good off the cuff, you know. So anyway, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Status Coup. We do have a fun show for you. First of all, we got a DOJ. The DOJ is looking into a San Jose police union boss who was
Right.
apparently attempting to import illegal drugs. We have an update on the whole TikTok ban proposal that is slithering its way through the United States Senate. But we're going to be talking about that, and we actually have an unlikely ally here. We're going to be going through all that. The Railway Accountability Act, we're going to be looking into that, along with HR1. Now, HR1 usually refers to the first priority of the new majority in the House, and the new majority
Yeah.
in the House just wants to undo what few climate crumbs we have. We're going to be looking into all that, and we're going to look at Bernie Sanders talking to Howard Schultz and the Starbucks union hearings. And then we got a right-wing insanity roundup. So we got a
We
lot
do.
going on.
And Trump and Waco.
Trump and Waco, which sounds
Waco,
like
Wacko, Waco, Wacko and Waco.
I
There's
think it's Waco. I mean, that sounds like it could be a neat.
no, it's
folk
definitely Waco. I'm just.
I hear the documentary, by the way, is fantastic.
It is very good.
I've not watched it yet.
I'm actually looking forward to the follow-on documentary because it's taking a look at the aftermath of Waco. And
Yeah.
when Waco's discussed, it's generally discussed as an anti-government issue, right? These are anti-government folks. But what's missing from this conversation, and the reality is they're also white supremacists. Not the Branch Davidians per se, but the people that were gathering around the Waco site that were anti-government. Timothy McVeigh obviously is one of them. He was down there handing out Nazi paraphernalia. So we're going to talk about that as well.
Also, I'm very impressed that you taught your dogs how to clap. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. It sounds like your dogs are clapping, and they are adorable. But if anyone's wondering what that is, Tina taught her dogs how to clap.
And I guess we're just having. Hang on, Ron.
Soon.
We're having an issue with the live. I think it's up now, but it wasn't on YouTube yet. But it's working now, I think.
Are we not on YouTube?
We weren't. That's why I was texting there. Now we are.
We're on YouTube. Hi, YouTube. I've heard a lot of good things about you.
You missed our entire opening dialogue. Oh,
Oh
well.
man! All right.
Or does it go back and play from the recorded part?
I don't know, but we're on YouTube now. Everything's cool. Are we copacetic? I don't see. Sorry, folks. We've had some technical issues today. We're running a little bit behind. We are.
Colin is gone. He is having a vacation day because he's moving, and so we're trying to like fill in the gaps on our own. We're tech challenged.
So bear with us.
Yeah, bear with us.
And sorry for our tardiness, YouTube, but we are apparently up now. If we're not, let us know. YouTube, tell you what, send us a super chat. It's been a day, and we'd love to hear from you. So please smash the like button. The Chiron's not there because again, Colin is missing. But smash the like button anyway. We really need those like smashes. And feel free to leave a super chat. We'll get to everyone. Let's just hop into our first story here.
Yeah.
And, you've been really hitting the beat with this a lot.
This is a crazy story. Okay, so I want to first pull up the Department of Justice press release on this. So the San Jose Police Union, okay, we're talking about the police union chief, has just been indicted, arrested for dealing drugs, basically, illegally, and has been going on for a very long time. And in fact, she even used the San Jose Police Union's headquarters to run this business out of. So the Office of the United States Attorney has filed a federal criminal complaint charging Joanne Marianne Segovia with attempt to illegally import a controlled substance in connection with a scheme to bring synthetic opioids into the country and distribute them throughout the United States, announced the United States Attorney Ishmael Ramsey, and Homeland Security Investigation Special Agent in charge of Tantum King. So here, once again, we have corrupt police engaging in all kinds of criminal things. Not shocking, but still, how many times is this going to happen?
I think that's the million-dollar question. How often will police engage in illegal activities? Probably as long as we have a structure that allows them to get away with it and allows them to go completely unchecked. Because in reality, the way the system of policing works, it has nothing to do with serving and protecting. It has everything to do with just upholding the needs of the powerful. And when you have a system like that, guess what? You're going to attract some not so great people who have some not so great intentions. And when you do have well-intentioned people, 99% of the time, they're out real quick because that's the way the system is set up. That's why when people say the whole thing like, well, there's some good cops out there, that's not the point. The point is that the system prohibits that from being a thing. I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't some people who go into law enforcement with right intentions. Of course there are. But that the system is not like it's set up in a way where it's like it's still just a floating turd. Well, some people go to the floating turd with good intentions. Well, we need to get rid of the turd. We need to make it not a turd anymore.
Not a turd anymore. So the complaint alleges that between October 2015 up until January 2023, just recently, Segovia had at least 61 shipments mailed to her home originating from countries including Hong Kong, Hungary, India, and Singapore. The manifest for these shipments declared that their contents were, wait for it, wedding party favors, gift makeup, chocolate, and sweets.
So they were like, so were they hiding like fentanyl and chocolate?
Yeah, so it's tramadol. No, I mean, she was marking the boxes saying that that's what they were.
Oh, saying that's what they were.
Yeah, so they were all various opioid pills. The complaint also alleges that...
I would be so pissed off if I thought I was tearing into some chocolate and it was fentanyl. What if you sent that gift to somebody? What if
you know what's wild about this too, Ron, is how many times have we seen like police falsely and wrongly claim that if you touch fentanyl, you can die from it or get a fentanyl overdose just from it reaching your skin. We've seen this happen a few times where police have said this, which is a completely false statement. That's not true. That doesn't happen. And yet here you have, maybe
it's because they're making all the money from it. I mean, they're like, okay, other people who want to deal fentanyl, we want to scare them so we can keep it all for ourselves. Don't touch it, you'll die. You better stick to the other stuff that we're not pushing.
So, and the crux is she also used the Police Officers Association office to deal her drugs out of. So the controlled substances, for example, in spring of 2021, Segovia was told by a supplier to send a package to a woman in North Carolina. Segovia then sent the supplier a photograph of a shipment made using the, wait for it, UPS account of the San Jose Police Officers Association.
That's awesome. She sent her a thing. She's just like, just so you know, it's not actually chocolate. Don't eat it. It's some drugs that we're pushing.
I mean, this is some wild stuff here. But, it reminds me, we had the big bust of the Rampart Division here in Los Angeles, a little over a decade ago, where that entire gang unit was dealing narcotics. They were taking coke.
Happened.
They were taking the coke from, the drug dealers, arresting the drug dealers, and then selling it themselves. How they got busted was one of the officers replaced the narcotics in the evidence locker with Bisquick. And when the DA pulled the sample for a case they were working on, came back as negative for cocaine, and so that's how they got busted. They got too greedy, apparently.
Wow. That's just epic. That's
in the Baltimore Police Department, there's another one. They were dealing narcotics for a year before the Department of Justice came down on them. So again,
I've seen The Wire. I know.
Actually, there was another documentary on that. I can't think of the name of it right now. That was quite good on HBO too. Delved into all of it.
The Wire's not a documentary, but yeah.
No, but it's quite good. I think it's based. I have. Okay. It's good stuff. Yeah, I like that.
It's a good show. I like that one. It's fun.
Anyway.
All right. So I guess we'll see what
TikTok.
happens. Like,
We'll see
what's
what
going to be next
happens.
for her?
I think she's going to prison.
Okay.
And the other part of that too is you have to wonder how difficult is it for an ex-cop to be in prison and you find yourself amongst a population that you put away. I can't imagine that that's not a very dangerous situation. You would think some of these guys would, I don't know, be smarter than that, but
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, okay, let's hop over to TikTok and we'll see what happens there. So Zaina, can you pull up the Reuters article, please? So we have an unlikely. So we've been following the TikTok ban proposal here on Status Coup, and we have an unlikely ally here in Rand Paul of all people. So to give a quick refresher here before we dive into this Reuters piece, there's a policy out there that would potentially ban TikTok, and it talks about, oh, it's a security threat, it's this and that. There was a hearing with the CEO of TikTok that we covered last week on Status Coup. This has nothing to do with security. This has nothing to do with data privacy concerns. This has everything to do with fear mongering and xenophobia towards China. Are there concerns about the Chinese government? Absolutely. Are there security concerns across all social media platforms? Absolutely. But there's a big difference between actually addressing those concerns and just doing xenophobic nonsense. And this bill is xenophobic nonsense. And that hearing was xenophobic nonsense. And this bill does so much more than just ban TikTok. It would also mess with the Berman Amendments, which means any given president could dictate what information you're allowed to see from foreign entities. And you could face jail time for having certain types of VPNs. So this is a very serious Patriot Act style bill.
Wait, VPNs. Wait. Go back to that. I didn't realize that.
Certain types of VPNs you could face jail time for having, like certain types of foreign VPNs and stuff. You could potentially face jail time if you have them.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. That makes it even more nefarious, in my opinion.
It is a very, very, very shady bill. And it does have opposition. Now, Republicans and Democrats are for this thing. Some Republicans and Democrats are also against it. Rand Paul has been among the outspoken against it, which I disagree with him on most things, but I agree with him here.
Every now and then he comes across in these areas with good positions. He's like
yes, he does.
The broken clock, good twice a day kind of guy.
That's actually when I tweeted this article, that was what I put at the top. I put broken clock. But yeah, every now and again he has a good. I mean, so I think his dad did too. I mean, every now and again there's something where I agree with Ron Paul on. I think I have.
It appeals to his libertarian side, really. He doesn't want the government to impede on any of these things because he's a libertarian. But
yeah, and sometimes issues of war and peace. It's like we're in the same
Patriot Act. He was against that. So in these areas there are areas that I have agreed with him on.
Yeah, so Rand Paul's good on this one. Jamal Bowman has been outspoken against this. He got this one right. AOC has been outspoken against it. She's gotten this one right. So here's what's going on. Let's talk about some of the article here. So here's one of his quotes that I wanted to point out. If Republicans want to continuously lose elections for a generation, they should pass this bill to ban TikTok, a social media app used by 150 million people, primarily young Americans. Do we really want to emulate Chinese speech bans? We're going to be just like China, says Rand Paul, and ban speech we're afraid of. And he also said that this is... He also said that this violates First Amendment issues. He also said...
Which it does.
It totally does. And Zaina, can you scroll up a little bit? There was something earlier in the article I wanted to kind of highlight for folks. If you can scroll up a little bit. If not, I can just read it separately. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I think we should beware... All right, sorry, it keeps on jumping around here for me. Okay, U.S. Republican Senator Rand Paul on Wednesday blocked a bid to fast-track a ban of popular Chinese-owned social media app TikTok, which more than 150 million Americans use, citing concerns about free speech and the uneven treatment across social media companies. So here's one thing he said where I'm like, yeah, I think we should beware of those who use fear to coax Americans to relinquish our liberties. Every accusation of data gathering that has been attributed to TikTok could also be attributed to domestic big tech companies.
Right.
He's right. I mean, and it's a shame. Whenever you're in a situation and Rand Paul is the voice of reason, that's frightening. But he's totally, I mean, all the things, and throughout that hearing, if you watch that hearing and you kind of sift through the xenophobic, rah America nonsense that was spewed by so many, mostly on the right,
Hang on, Ron, I'm going to have to interrupt this broadcast. We have breaking news right now. So the New York City grand jury has actually indicted Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Holy moly. So the thing that a lot of people didn't think was going to happen that I did think was is happening. Hang on, let's see if we can find an article on this.
Yeah, okay.
Get the details here. Carry on, but I'll pull something up while you're doing that.
Well, no, I mean, we can just kind of seal it at, everybody please go to don'tbantiktok.com. That's don'tbantiktok.com. This policy is extremely dangerous. It has nothing to do with actual data privacy concerns, because if it did, what they would do instead is pursue better data privacy across all social media, not just TikTok, but on all social media. They're not doing that. So please go to don'tbantiktok.com and sign that petition. This legislation goes far beyond banning TikTok, and it is extremely dangerous. We can, I guess, go to this breaking Trump news.
Yeah, okay. So New York Magazine has something. Okay, Donald Trump has been indicted in Manhattan, making him the first former president in history to be charged with a crime. Trump is accused of falsifying business records and violating campaign finance law by orchestrating payments to Stormy Daniels during his 2016 presidential campaign in order to suppress her story of their alleged affair. The case brought by District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office has been expected for some time as part of a years-long investigation into Trump that started when he was president. Trump, 76, is expected to appear in the near future in a lower Manhattan courthouse where he will be treated like any other defendant, taken into custody, fingerprinted, photographed, and made to attend a hearing before a judge where he will enter a plea, and the conditions of his release will be set pending trial. Below is what we know so far. The hush money. On October 8th, 2016, a day after the release of the all-access Hollywood tape of Trump bragging about groping women, porn star Stormy Daniels' agent reached out to the National Enquirer to say that her client was open to sharing her story publicly about having sex with Trump years earlier. Goes on to talk about that. Let's not rehash that. The investigation. In the days after Cohen's guilty plea, that's the attorney Cohen, in 2018 to federal prosecutors, the district attorney's office under Cyrus Vance Jr. started looking into the circumstances surrounding the payment made to Daniels. The inquiry quickly expanded to focus on larger aspects of Trump's business dealings, particularly surrounding the Trump Organization. Vance and commenters had raised expectations that Trump himself would be indicted, but only the company and its CFO, Alan Weisselberg, were charged with tax fraud and convicted. Bragg, a Democrat who was elected district attorney in 2021, insisted that despite the departure of two prominent prosecutors over the lack of criminal charges for Trump for alleged financial crimes, his office's criminal investigation into Trump was ongoing. Then in January, it was reported that Cohen was meeting with prosecutors for the first time in more than a year, an indication that the dormant hush money inquiry was active again. Later that month, the office impaneled a grand jury to begin examining evidence. It heard testimony from David Pecker, the former publisher of the National Enquirer, Davidson, and Kellyanne Conway, who once served as Trump's campaign manager. Cohen testified for 2 consecutive days at the end of the grand jury's investigation and is likely to be the prosecution's star witness despite his history of lying, including under oath before Congress. Following his testimony, Trump was invited to testify, but his team sent a former attorney of Cohen's to shred his credibility instead. Well, there it is. So he did get indicted. What are your thoughts, Ron? Do you think anything will
No. I've been saying the same thing for 7 years and counting. I have a feeling I'll be saying it for the next 13. I have a feeling I'll have to say it for about 20 years. I have a feeling because the whole thing with
maybe not. We'll know before 20 years whether or not he's going to actually, see.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Okay, but can we have a moment to discuss that it was the porn star that brought him to this phase? There's been so many other more nefarious things that he's been involved in, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what's sad.
It's the porn star that's
what's sad is that there's so many shady things that this guy did day in and day out when he was in office. He committed financial conflicts of interest by the bucketful. Nobody looked at any of that. Instead, they hyper focus on these little things to try to get them, and then they don't get them. Someone else takes the fall, and this is going to
Well,
be
I
just
mean, it's
another.
just an indictment, which just means that a grand jury heard evidence from the prosecution's office. I think it's important to point out that grand juries don't hear anything from defense, only
Right.
from the prosecution. So just because something gets indicted doesn't mean it's going to end up being, a major criminal trial with charges won. However, I do think it's historically important to note that this is the first time we've seen an ex-president indicted.
I mean, okay. I mean, but it's like how many presidents have done shady stuff? I mean, look,
All of them.
here's all of them. Exactly. Like I think what's likely to happen here. So the big thing, it's like it's not some super, like illegal thing that he just gave her hush money. The illegal part, the shady part is that they misappropriated that as campaign funds.
Right.
So what I think's gonna happen is they're just gonna be, oh, it was like an accounting thing. Someone else will take the fall, or Trump will give some settlement, and nobody will remember this when it's time for the campaign trail in 2024.
I mean, that's possible.
I
That
know.
wouldn't surprise me either.
I know that, even here as a network at Status Coup, we're a bit divided on this one. That's fine. It's always good to hear different perspectives. But I think most of the Trump stuff is largely a waste of time. I don't like Trump as far as I can throw him. I can't stand the guy. He's a freaking criminal. But, if you want to beat him, you're not going to beat him just by, having these little legal measuring contests between him and all of his colleagues who, at the end of the day, they eat dinner at the same freaking places. All right. You got to try to beat him for real, which, no one's really interested in doing. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
I think a lot of
the
this
financial
stuff,
shenanigans that even at the Trump organizations, I think are much more important allegations.
daily, there's websites out there that show you all of the shit he did in office that you can't do.
I mean, the tax evasion stuff is insane.
That's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I know.
That's the tip of the iceberg.
There are much more serious allegations out there that we'll probably not see charges from, that we should see charges from.
No, because they all do the same shit. Because he was constantly using the office to just enhance his own businesses, which you can't do that. And they used to actually enforce that. There was a day where Jimmy Carter had to give up a frickin' peanut farm. Those days are over. And so they couldn't really pin that on Trump because they all do the same shit or comparable shit, I should say. Comparable shit. Not quite at his level in most cases, but they all get the insider stock info. They all get the insider market info. They all do it. So if they tried to actually pin that on Trump, they'd have to freaking they'd be facing shit too. And they know that. The Nancy Pelosi's of the world and everyone else, the Mitch McConnells of the world, they know that. So instead, we have a freaking 3-act play that, quite frankly, is real fucking boring. It started with Russiagate. Act 2 was the impeachment charade. This is Act 3, and it's little more than Act 3. I do have a bet running with a friend that I might lose, since technically he did get indicted. I'm happy to lose that bet and buy her dinner. But we both know that, hey, whichever one of us won this bet, the world still loses, because this isn't going to lead to anything.
You're picking up the dinner tab, and I'll pick up the drink tab.
I didn't make the bet with you. We can make a separate bet, though.
Alrighty. Yeah, so interesting stuff. We'll see where that goes. Probably the most breaking information today, but not the most important. I think our next topic is far more important, actually.
The railroad?
The railroad.
We're on the Railway Accountability Act, right?
Yes, that is what we are on.
Yeah. So this is Fetterman's first bill, folks. This is right. This is Fetterman's first attempt as a right, like that he did on his own.
Yeah. So let's pull up his press release, actually, Zaina. So this is the first big move we're seeing from John Fetterman since he's been elected, I think.
Which, to be fair, this is not a bad first.
Not a bad first at all. Zaina, you there? I want to pull this up. Or I'll start reading it if she can pull it up when she here. There, no. It's in the folder, the John Fetterman press release. Fetterman Casey Brown introduced Railway Accountability Act to expand rail safety in wake of derailment. Washington, D.C. U.S. Senators John Fetterman, Bob Casey, and Sherrod Brown introduced the Railway Accountability Act to address additional longstanding rail safety concerns, protect workers, and help prevent future harm to railside communities across the country. The Railway Accountability Act would build on the proposals in the Bipartisan Railway Safety Act introduced earlier this month by Senators Brown and J.D. Vance, which is, come on now, really, J.D. Vance, and co-sponsored by Senators Fetterman and Casey. The Railway Accountability Act would take multiple steps towards guaranteeing rail safety by directing the Federal Railroad Administration to study wheel-related failures and derailments, enhancing switchyard safety practices, enacting common-sense brake safety measures, requiring large freight railroad companies to join a confidential close-call reporting system administered by the FRA and NASA, and ensuring the railways produce sufficient reporting and safety equipment to its workers, among other improvements. So the confidential close call thing is really good because it will allow the workers to call in and report safety issues and to do it confidentially, so they won't be afraid of having any reprisal from that.
So
that's not the press release, that's the Hill article, but okay.
So my overall take on this, like obviously this is not a bad thing. Like this is good. This is a step in a better direction. I do kind of feel like it might not go far enough. Like right. I do kind of feel like,
because that's generally the case, right?
It doesn't address the understaffing concerns. It doesn't address, just the way these rail workers are treated, which is a big reason why we got to this place. And, let's keep in mind the Biden administration killed the rail strike. They killed the frickin' rail strike, and so when you have these grossly understaffed trains that have like one or two people staffing entire trains, they're working 80 hours a week, they're on call constantly, it's going to lead to more issues. And so I'm worried this doesn't quite go far enough. And in the Hill piece, I like how Norfolk Southern, they wouldn't embrace this thing, but they did say, well, we're for some funding for additional training. So basically, if they're going to get money, if their company's going to get money for stuff, they're for that. They're fine with that. They're cool with that. But they're not really, for anything else. So, I'm certainly not against this legislation. I don't see how anyone could be. I'm happy to see it. Yeah, here's the actual quote here. Norfolk Southern Railway CEO Alan Shaw declined to endorse the bipartisan legislation during a hearing last week, but said he'd support some aspects of the bill, such as funding for hazardous materials training for first responders. So I wonder how much of that funding would actually go towards said training. That's a concern. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad to see it. I think it likely doesn't go far enough, and I think the true solution for this stuff is a rail strike. Is a straight up rail strike, which, by the way, there's a huge transit strike in Germany right now because they're saying, hey, you got to adjust our wages to fit with inflation better. And the people are saying no. So the transit workers in Germany are like, we're done. We're going on strike. And folks, if we really want to take some lessons right now on what a society needs sometimes, we can go to France or we can go to Germany, because France has a straight up general strike because they tried to raise the retirement age to 62 to 64. And the people said, hell no. And in Germany, there's a mass transit strike that is pretty close to a general strike in and of itself, because they wanted better wages. They deserve better wages. They're not getting them. So they're like, okay, we're freaking done. So,
Hey, Ron, hang on. My puppy just snuck out into the street. I need to go grab him.
Oh, wow. Well, you better go get
this. I'm going to hand this over to you for 10 minutes.
Your puppy couldn't handle the excitement of Trump's indictment.
Apparently not.
Oh. Go get your puppy. All right. Well, Tina is rescuing her dog that knows how to clap. We will go to the next story. So let's go over to H.R. 1. So H.R. 1, again, is the... usually it represents the policy that the new incoming House of Representatives wants to prioritize. And what this House of Representatives wants to prioritize is they want to basically gut what little climate protections we have. So, Zaina, can we pull up that the Hill article for H.R. 1, please? Here we go. So what is in the House Republicans' energy package policy? House Republicans effectively named energy policy as their top priority when they introduced an energy package known as H.R. 1 earlier in March. On Tuesday, the chambers started debate on the bill. While the bill is unlikely to make it past the Senate or to get to President Biden, who I think even Biden said he would veto this thing, that's how freaking bad it is, it does lay out the party's vision for how to improve the country's energy policies. Okay, so here's their vision for improvement. I'll keep going here. This is what Speaker Kevin McCarthy had to say. This bill counters President Biden's attack on our domestic energy and includes permitting reforms that will speed construction for major infrastructure projects across the country. What he means by infrastructure, of course, is drill, baby, drill, which, by the way, Biden's already cool with so much drilling. So this is even Biden, Mr. I won't ban fracking. And by the way, I'm cool with drilling. Here's the Willow Project. Even that is not enough for them. So scroll down a little bit, Zana. So here's what the bill would do if it were to pass. Let me see here. It would bolster fossil fuels. The Republican bills contain several provisions aimed at boosting production and sales of oil and gas. For public lands, it requires the Interior Department to hold at least 4 annual sales. It would also reduce the royalty rate that companies that drill offshore need to pay to the government. So not only it will stop any and all halts to fracking. So anything trying to lessen fracking, it'll gut all that. So frack, baby, frack. And by the way, you're going to drill, and then guess what? You get to keep even more money. Your profit margins are going to be increased, and that permitting reform, which means you can just frack anywhere. Seldomly is there a fracking permit that the government doesn't like. They're going to make sure that there's never a fracking permit they don't like. So this is their top priority. This is their main bill. Can we go ahead and play the AOC clip? It's just the second thing there listed, Zana. Okay. And then
Can you hear it? I can't hear it.
Yeah, I can't hear it. It's okay. We'll just move on to the Common Dreams piece. Can you pull up the Common Dreams piece? So just to let you guys know, it's not like Biden is some huge climate savior here. Biden approved the Willow oil grill. Wow, say that 5 times fast. The Willow oil drilling has been greenlighted. There's no way anyone could say that 5 times fast.
I know,
wouldn't
right?
say the Willow oil grilling hot dog project, but the Willow oil drilling greenlighted. So Biden's already drilling, but House Republicans decided that's not enough. Not every fracking permit is approved. Like here in California, where I live, Gavin Newsom.
But
finally,
the Democrats also, Manchin member, tried to do what they're calling permitting reform of 7 or 8 months ago. So this is the first time we've seen this try to happen. And when they say permit reform, they actually just want to get rid of the regulations that are in place right now to slow that process down and to make sure everything is, above board, that there's no there's always an environmental issue, but fewer of them. But they want
to get rid of what little red tape exists, what little accountability exists, and there is so little. The EPA, like as it has been gutted so hard over the years. I mean, it really got amplified with Bush, like the Bush administration, how much it's been gutted as an agency. I mean, it is. I know. Don't play in the street, young puppy. It's not good.
He was out on the street, Ron. I was like, uh-oh, how did he get out? I don't know how did you
don't hang out there. So, I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, this is so bad. Even Biden said he would veto it. That's how bad it is. The guy who wrote the crime bill, the guy who was cool with the Patriot Act, the guy.
Part of me thinks that if it was a Democrat doing this, that he would probably be okay with it.
Oh, of course he would.
Just partisan political battles going on, because it's the other team doing it.
Of course. I mean, I do think that this particular thing is so freaking bad
Yeah, it is bad.
that
I agree.
even even Democrats probably wouldn't be able to get away with it. Like they wouldn't be able to get away with proposing it. That's how freaking bad it is. They'd have to they'd have to sugarcoat it a little bit, you know, like they have like kind of the way Biden's doing it, the way he's doing it, where he's just like,
Right.
well, I'm not okay with this, but the Willow Project's cool. That's just, you know, the way Obama did it with like, oh, well, you know, we're going to do an all of the above approach. So of course we're going to drill. Oh, and by the way, that's what I meant by all the above. That's, you know, that's like Democrats need to be a little subtle about it. And that's how oil and gas works. Like if oil and gas and just destroying our environment was a big freaking freight train, Republicans, when they're in power, they make the freight train go a little faster. And then when Democrats are in power, they don't slow the freight train down at all. But sometimes people are like, hey, you got to slow down that freight train. So Democrats, they take like a twig and throw it in the tracks. Doesn't make an iota of difference. But they were like, we really tried. Here's a nice clip. And rinse and repeat. And then the freight train continues to get a little faster and a little faster. That's what happened because that's what Bush did. And that's what happened because Obama kept Bush's work on autopilot.
Ron, speaking of clips, I do have the AOC clip if you guys want to play that. In
let's play it. Yeah.
Right.
If you've got it. Yeah.
It's almost as if you gave a pen to an oil lobbyist and wrote down everything that they'd want. Much of that was in this bill. We are looking at reducing big oil's royalty rates to the public, slashing interest fees. For people following at home, if you are a member of the American public, if you are a tax-paying citizen, you are part of the ownership of our public lands. And when an oil company decides to lease that land, they are supposed to pay a royalty to the public. What does HR 1 do? Slashes that royalty rate, so that there is very little payback or investment into the American people and many of our programs. In this bill, Republicans are squarely on the side of fossil fuel companies. It makes it harder for communities to fight big oil when they don't want them drilling in their own backyards. It also threatens our public lands and allows anyone to stake a mining claim on our public lands for less than $10 an acre, even if they haven't discovered any minerals. And despite the fact that more than 40% of Americans live in counties hit by climate disasters, this bill prohibits agencies from even considering climate change when deciding whether or not to issue a permit to a drilling company. None of these things are going to lower our costs at the pump. None of these things are going to actually reduce our utility bills.
She's right. I mean, she's right. And that's the other thing. So not only does it like increase their profit margins, it also screws people harder. So when these oil companies go and frack on people's property, people do get some money back on their mineral rights. It's still, I think people are largely getting ripped off. They're still getting a fraction of what they should be, but they at least get something. And that's how the fracking industry has been able to boom so hard.
Right.
Because for a lot of these people, they're in, you know, not super wealthy areas. So for so many people, saying yes to the fracking industry is the difference as to whether or not their kid gets to go to college, or the difference as to whether or not they have savings for retirement. That's how they got so many people to say yes to allow them to frack on your land. And the way it works too is if one person says yes, everybody might as well say yes because of like the whole straw effect. So if one person says sure, you might as well say yes and at least get money because your land's going to be ruined anyway. So like it's like you got to be in communication with your neighbors, and if someone says
no, it has a broader effect than just that.
And they're gonna convince one of you. So that's how the fracking industry gets to do what they get to do. Now it makes it even worse because what little these people were getting, now that's been slashed. So these pennies of pennies, which again is a sizable amount for a lot of people, but now even that's slashed. So if they convince the neighbor, which they will, you're still getting a fraction of a fraction. I mean, it is so beyond criminal.
So
they're just nthing the degree of criminality here. It's so disgusting.
I have another Trump indictment update.
Okay.
Because now that we have, once the indictment comes out, you can start plowing through the transcripts, right, of the grand jury testimony, and you can get a better handle of what questions were being asked, what kind of evidence was being presented. So it's not just Stormy Daniels we're looking at. So Manhattan District Attorney is asking questions about hush money paid to a former Playboy model named Karen McDougal.
Is that a real name?
That is her real name.
That's not her stage name. Karen McDougal.
I don't know.
Do you think anyone says that full
Boy
name
says
during
that's
sex?
her real name.
Karen McDougal. Like no one. That's too much.
The Manhattan District Attorney's Office has been asking questions during a grand jury proceedings about a hush money scheme known as the Catch and Kill deal, aimed at covering up an alleged affair between former President Donald Trump and a former Playboy model before the 2016 presidential election. Two people are familiar with the matter said. Prosecutors have asked at least one witness questions about a $150,000 payment the publisher of the National Enquirer made to the model, Karen McDougal, to buy her story about the alleged affair with Trump, the people said. The grand jury has been investigating Trump's alleged role to a $130,000 hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels.
Karen McDougal. I still don't believe it's a real name. Karen McDougal.
Trump has denied both affairs, but I believe these women.
There's no way he could deny Stormy Daniels at this point. That's nuts. He's denying Stormy Daniels. There's no way. Karen McDougal, Karen McDougal sounds like, you know how like when you're younger and stuff, it's sometimes like, I mean, this is something I guess baby guys stereotypically did more, but like you people will make up that they have a girlfriend, like, oh yeah, no, I have this girlfriend, she lives in Canada.
That's totally a dude thing.
It is a dude thing. I never did it, but I know like some dudes that did. I swear I never did. But
I'm hearing your fake girlfriend when you were 12 was Karen McDougal. That's what I'm hearing.
My fake girlfriend was Karen McDougal. Yeah, that's my point. They were just like, well, what's your girlfriend's name? Karen McDougal. Call her right now. She lives in Canada, man. I can't call her on the payphone because it's like an international call. But she lives in Canada. You wouldn't know her. But her name's Karen McDougal. Again, it's the same. It's the same thing they're trying to get him for. It's not that he paid.
Yeah, but how much of a pattern is this? Is what I'm wondering.
Trump getting prostitutes and wanting them to not say anything. I imagine pretty common. Like what? How is this groundbreaking to anyone?
Yeah,
like
no, I
he
gotcha.
just.
It's
They're
true.
saying that, oh, he misappropriated those funds. You can't use campaign funds for such a thing. That's illegal. So what's likely going to happen is somebody will take the fall for this accounting error that they'll claim it was. And that's it. He'll pay his settlement. Yeah.
All right. So Trump. Okay. So the witness also was asked about other stories bought by American Media Inc., which publishes the Enquirer, and later killed. Trump had a history with his longtime friend and former chairman of AMI, David Pecker. That is his real name, David Pecker.
That is not his real name. David Pecker and Karen McDougal make porn. It's VHS only. You can find it. Go to...
So David Pecker of buying negative stories and planting positive ones. The People said Pecker testified Monday before the Manhattan grand jury for the second time. Michael Cohen pled guilty to 2 federal campaign finance charges related to the payments to McDougal and Daniels to silence their allegations before the election. AMA got a non-prosecution agreement for cooperating with the federal prosecution. Pecker testified and received immunity in the federal investigation. As part of its non-prosecution agreement, AMI admitted to making the $150,000 payment in cooperation with some members of Trump's campaign in order to prevent McDougal's claims of an affair from becoming public. Pecker met with Cohen and at least one other member of the campaign in August of 2015, the agreement states.
Wait, Tina, I have another breaking piece of information here.
What's that?
I think that... So Karen McDougal has a brother named Douchsack McDougal who allegedly has a videotape of Trump pissing himself. So there you go.
Well, I mean, I think we need to check in with right-wing Twitter on this, right? So Charlie Kirk, who is the TPUSA guy, is calling the Trump indictment a Rubicon moment. Have we crossed the Rubicon here, Charlie? I mean, he also said that about the 2020 election. So we've had, according to Charlie Kirk, a lot of, Rubicon moments when it comes to Trump. GOP Congressman Ronnie Jackson. This is a dark day in American history. President Trump's only crime was making America great again. These cowardly Democrats
How
hate
did
Trump.
he do that?
I don't know, man. These cowardly Democrats hate Trump and hate his voters even more. When Trump wins, these people will pay. So I'm going to keep monitoring this as we cut in and out of our stories to see if anything else, pops up here. But
Trump's just a narcissistic asshole who had to pay hush money, and they used funds illegally for it. And like that's it.
Yeah,
he's going to run for president again.
What's unfortunate here is these are the least of the charges that have been presented in regards to him. It's really tragic that this is the one thing that they're going to get to indict him on. But also, as this relates back to the other indictments or the other cases where there's no indictments yet, it seems to me the federal prosecutors are getting closer in their document case. Have you been following that?
Are the walls closing in?
I mean, maybe.
Are the walls closing in? It's only been 7 years. But
I mean, the judge forced his lawyer to testify in the case, overruling his attorney-client privilege, which is very unusual, I think. So I don't know. Now, of course, you're going to have like a lot of people in the liberal sphere very excited about any kind of indictment. So
yes, because they don't actually care about real shit that's going on, and that's why I find this shit so irritating. You have a small portion of the United States, and it's getting smaller and smaller, that they don't really like they're well off enough that they just want somebody that's not going to hurt their tax bracket, but will make them feel better about themselves. So they're excited about something like a Hillary Clinton or whatever else. And all they want is just anti-Trump catnip. That's all they care about.
I need somebody to go tune into Fox News and see what they're saying. What's the spin coming out of Fox News right now?
They're probably saying the same shit that we just read on Twitter. Like, he was just trying to make America great, and they're being so mean to him. And it's like, I mean, and that's why I find the whole thing nauseating. I find it just a very boring political wrestling match between the most boring political ideologies, not just in the U.S., but in the fucking world. American conservatism is just like neo-fascist bullshit, and then it's countered by just neoliberal, half-baked bullshit. And it's just the absolute most ridiculous Overton window of political discussion that anyone has ever seen, because we have a complete corporate coup for a government. And I just don't get excited about the Trump freaking wrestling match. Like I just have a hard time. What do you think it would possibly lead to? Let me ask you this. Do you think he will not be able to run for president in 2024? Do you see that in any universe happening?
That's tough.
Be honest.
I don't. I actually don't have an answer on that. That's a tough one.
Oh, I think you do have an answer. I think you're just being shy. I think you're like, no, he's for sure going to run.
He's for sure going to run, yeah. I think he's for sure going to run, even if he is, even if these cases, get much more serious. He's definitely going to still run. Zaina, I sent you a link.
Zaina, do you think Trump's not going to be able to run?
What, Ron?
Do you think Trump's not going to be able to run? What do you think?
Well, according to Fox News,
they usually get it right. Continue.
I just dropped a link to Zaina about what they're saying on Fox.
Oh, okay. So it might be another link other than this one. Let me take a look.
Yeah, it's a video.
This one talks about that most voters are saying he should be disqualified if indicted. And I'll take a look at what you sent. Where did you send that to me, Tina?
Your Twitter DM.
Twitter DM. Oh, good. Okay, I'll go there and look. I'll hop off and get out of the way now.
No, actually, this is an interesting thing that you're bringing up. Trump holds big lead over DeSantis in 2024 GOP race, but most voters say he should be disqualified if indicted. Well, now, are they going to stick with that position, given the fact that he has now been indicted? I don't think they will be. I think they will say, no, let him run at this point. I don't think they foresaw a situation where he would actually be indicted.
Too many people see him, not too many people, but as far as his base is concerned, they see him as some victim. He's going to play.
Yeah, they're in a
into that.
cult,
You're already
100%.
hearing it. It is a cult. Fox News is going to amplify it times 10. I mean, and
But
honestly,
it's not all of the Republican Party. I mean, there's really kind of a fracture that's happened now. The like dyed-in-the-wool Trump cultists are still there, but a lot of the extremists, the right-wing extremists that supported him in the last election cycle, they're not supporting him at this point because they don't think he went. They don't think he went far enough. So they've become much more accelerationist, meaning like burn it all down. Let's start the race war now so that we can replace our government with a white nationalist country. So they've just were disappointed by the things Trump did. They weren't extreme enough. But now he's dog whistling, or what's worse, what's bigger than a dog whistle? He's doing that by being in Waco, Texas.
A wolf whistle.
Look,
here's the thing though. That's not gonna I think the fracture you're talking about exists, yes, but would they ever vote differently at the end of the day?
No, I don't think so.
Absolutely not.
I think
So it's like
it's the same way on both sides. The
No.
dyed-in-the-wool Democrats will vote Democrat no matter what too. They might not necessarily like the guy, but no, I think that's pretty typical for the American politics, right? So people vote their state party lines or their party lines no matter what, if they are dyed-in-the-wool part of the core base.
And it always crushes
the biggest
left.
chunk. Yeah, but
it always crushes the left because the Republicans do it, and then the corporate Democrats do it too.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
They'll do whatever they can. I mean,
the biggest. But Ron, the important part is the biggest part of the voter block is 100% the non-voters. It's people that check out of elections because of this very problem. They decide not to vote because in their minds, voting doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, so what's going to bring them in? I mean, this stuff.
Bernie Sanders brought them in for the obvious reasons. He is what I would call a left exit to the income inequality situation in the United States. If you look at what's interesting to me always, if you look at how folks diagnose the problems in the country, whether they're on the right or the left, that diagnosis and the pain that they're feeling is generally the same, right? I can go into a neo-Nazi chat room and I can go into a lefty chat room. And if you hid the names of people and their political affiliations and you just had them talk about what they think is wrong in America, most of it would be the same. The difference is the neo-Nazis are going to say like, well, we want less income inequality and we want social programs, but we want them only for white people.
Yeah. Well, not just that, but then they are very, very tragically confused as to.
I don't disagree with you on that. I'm just saying it's kind of wild.
I know you.
And
don't.
in fact, a lot of them are anti-capitalist at this point. You absolutely hear them saying things like, "I'm anti-capitalist," and I've seen that happening more and more frequently.
Which is frightening because it makes the rest of us look bad.
Yeah, I mean it's strange.
But yeah, well, no, it's one of those things.
Hang on, Zaina, did you get the video? Do we have that ready to play? No, not yet. Okay. Zaina, just pop it up when you have it ready to play.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I'll get that.
Here, we have just gotten word former President Donald Trump has been indicted by a grand jury in New York. Trump was under investigation by the DA's office for his alleged hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 campaign.
So
that was it?
Yeah, no, there was a longer one, but okay.
All right.
I might have sent Zaina the wrong one. Anyway, so that's what's going on there.
One on the tweet, Tina. Oh, sorry. There's a delay here. I apologize. That was the one on the tweet, but there may be a longer one, and I can look for one for us. And
you know what? Yeah, it's a thread. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I'll get the next one, and just give me a couple minutes, and then we could get that up.
Okay. There might
There's
be some better
probably quite
ones.
a few out there. I bet.
Why don't you fish around for some good ones, and we will discuss the next topic and come back to what Fox is saying, because I think we should pay attention to that.
So let's talk about
Bernie slams Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz is the
former
many
CEO.
Times,
he had to step down again.
I was going to say many times over CEO of Starbucks, the founder of Starbucks, but he has been off the CEO, back on the CEO, off the CEO, back on multiple times now. But there is no question about the fact that Howard Schultz is 100% a union buster. He has been trying to kill the Starbucks unions. He got in trouble with the NLRB. One of the tactics that he used was offering benefits only to employees that were at extra benefits, I should say, extra ones like paying off student loan debt, whatever, but only to non-unionized shops. So the Starbucks stores that have been unionized, he did not offer those extra benefits. So he's gone out of his way to do this.
Which he got busted for. The NLRB said
for.
you can't
That's
do
right.
that.
You can't
he
do
kept
that.
trying to do it anyway. So they finally, you know, like now there's a hearing. I mean, and
Now
it
there's
just
a
goes to
hearing.
show, you know, a lot of times these agencies don't actually enforce anything. In this case, you know, like to their credit, the labor board has been doing things. They're saying to Howard Schultz, you can't do this. They're saying
Right.
to Jeff Bezos, you can't do this. But these corporations are just so powerful. They're just thumbing their nose and they're just doing it anyway. You know, so yeah. So the hearing happened yesterday.
Yeah, it happened yesterday. I know we had live streamed it on Status Coup, but we're going to highlight bits and pieces of this clip. So let's put up the Reuters article just so folks get a lay of what's happening here. Starbucks former chief executive Howard Schultz defended himself and the coffee chain against allegations of union busting at a U.S. Senate committee hearing in Washington on Wednesday. The Seattle-based company had previously denied allegations that it illegally fired pro-union baristas or spied on workers as hundreds of U.S. stores organized unions starting in late 2021. It also says it did not violate federal labor law by offering some new benefits, including higher wages, student loan repayment tools, and a savings account program only to non-unionized stores, as the National Labor Relations Board has alleged. But how could he deny that? That's actually a proven fact. Senator Bernie Sanders, chair of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, told Schultz that Starbucks has waged the most aggressive and illegal union busting campaign in the modern history of our country. These are allegations, and Starbucks has not broken the law, was Schultz's response to him. So I wanted to play some clips from the hearing. First, let's play a little bit of the opening speech that Howard Schultz gave. So, Zaina, do you have that handy?
Will you yield?
Oh, I'll yield. Yes, please.
Yeah, when I was.
Who's that? That wasn't.
I don't know.
That was some dude.
It was the Howard denies the charges in a speech before Senate clip.
That was some dude in a snazzy suit.
That was it.
I don't know who that was. Couldn't tell. It was a quick one. Smash the like button, by the way, folks. Thank you for bearing with us. We're calling-less today, and everybody's trying to pick up the pieces left behind by Colin.
I know, Colin. It makes all of this look so easy.
But no, my cat's meowing. But well, I guess we can get to some chats. Maybe should we do some chats while we're trying to tee up those videos?
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what the deal is here.
So we got Humorous. What's up? How are you, Humorous? Good to hear from you. And you say, yes, YouTube is working. It sucks that Colin is on vacation. I don't think he's on vacation. I think he's traveling.
He's actually moving. Yeah.
Yeah, he's moving.
So.
But what's good is you're all still here, and we're all still hanging out with you, even with technical problems, because America doesn't have enough money to support the truth. Thank you for that, Humorous. And yeah, thank you
Humorous.
For
absolutely
bearing
appreciate
with
it.
us through the tech glitches. And I guess, folks, we'll since we're trying to queue up a few videos here, I'll mention to everybody where you can find me. You can catch me on the road. April 14th, I'll be in Los Angeles, California. May 12th, Los Angeles, California. June 16th, Madison, Wisconsin. June 17th, Minneapolis, Minnesota. June 23rd, Detroit, Michigan. June 28th, Bloomington, Indiana. June 29th, Chicago, Illinois. Chicago, Madison, and Minneapolis. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout for discounted tickets. Edinburgh, August 16th through 27th. I'm going to be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. You can go to my website, Ron Placone, for more information on those shows. But I'll be at the venue 32 Below at the Little Cellar daily, August 16th through 27th at 4 p.m. or 1600 for the non-American way of doing the time. And October 21st, I'm launching a comedy series in my neighborhood in San Pedro. And that first show is October 21st. You can get all tickets and information at my website, ronplacone.com. That's ronplacone.com. StatusCoup.com. And by the way, go to my YouTube channel, check out my series Loner. The first episode is out now. I appreciate y'all. You've watched that show. You've given me some thoughts, and I appreciate your comments and your support. And episode 2 will be coming out soon. Announcement over. Is the video ready?
And I don't know. Is the...
I think it's close. Let me see if this will play on the screen share, because what I did is I went through and I pulled all the clips from Twitter that you guys shared and I uploaded them here since the audio wasn't working. So now I have to see if we can see if the C-SPAN clip will play. I'm not 100% that it will, because I don't know if it's some audio trick that Colin does on the back end to get the audio to work on the screen share, but for some reason it's not working today.
Oh, there he is. Oh, there's Jerksack Magoo, aka Howard Schultz. He's such a horrible human.
You can't hear anything.
Yeah, we can't hear him. That's probably for the best, but
what is outrageous to me is not only Starbucks' anti-union activities and their willingness to break the law.
That was Bernie.
Yeah, that's
what
not...
is outrageous to me is not only Starbucks' anti-union activities and their willingness to break the law.
That's all we got? Man,
no,
Bernie really...
It's not the full clip.
Bernie bailed early on that one. He's like, well, this is outrageous. I gotta go. Look.
That is nowhere near the whole clip. I don't know what's going on.
Look, that's all I have to say. I want to go get a Grand Slam now. I'm tired. Howard Schultz is a dick. I'm out. I'm like, all right, dude. Okay. Yeah, that was part of Bernie's. Those were part of Bernie's thoughts.
Can somebody turn that into a GIF, by the way?
What I find outrageous, and then it just stops.
What is outrageous to me is not only Starbucks' anti-union activities and their willingness to break the law. It is their calculated and intentional efforts to stall, and to stall. They understand that the turnover rate at Starbucks and many other similar type companies is high. They understand that if workers do not see success in gaining a contract, they are going to get discouraged and give up the fight. At a time when we want, in this difficult time in our country, for people to stand up and fight for their rights, to try to destroy the spirit of thousands and thousands of people who are fighting for justice, that, to my mind, is unforgivable.
And he's right.
Yeah,
also,
I agree.
Do we have the clip from Senator Markey?
Senator Markey got a little snarky with him.
He got very snarky with him. It was great exchange.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's it's one of those things. It's hard not to like hear that stuff and be like, yes, get them, they deserve so. But then it's also the other side of it is sometimes I feel like it's like, yeah, this is all we're gonna get though.
Right.
Because these people never actually face any consequences. And this stuff is just sort of like,
yeah, I feel like we keep having, these various Senate hearings, House hearings, whatnot. And then what comes of them?
Yeah. And it's
is
so
it all just performative at this point? But this is also what's driving a lot of the anger in the country, right? So how many times does the American public get to sit through a Senate hearing and be like, yeah, he's right, and then have nothing change?
Right. And it is very frustrating.
Or get worse, if anything.
Right. To answer your question, is it all performative? I think it depends. I do think, I do think that Bernie is sincere in the way he does not like Howard Schultz. I do think that Ed Markey is sincere in that he is not a fan of what Howard Schultz is doing. Like I do think there's some sincerity there. It's just how many of their colleagues are on Howard Schultz's side? Well, most of them. So, I think in a lot of these things, some of it is performative, definitely. But so here's the Markey thing. Let's listen to that.
Appreciate you.
Or some of it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Thank you for this important hearing. And Mr. Schultz, it's good of you to show up, but then again, you face little choice. It's disappointing to me that it took such a long time and required the threat of a subpoena for you to appear before this committee. And it's frankly disrespectful to your hundreds of thousands of employees, but we do appreciate you finally appearing here. All across America, workers are saying that they've had enough. Rising inequality and outlandish CEO pay for those at the top, like you, and a paycheck-to-paycheck subsistence for everyone else. The unionizing Starbucks workers are on the front lines as a groundswell of working and middle-class people who are banding together to assert their right to organize, form a union, and collectively bargain for their dignity. My father used to tell me that you can't beg for your rights, you have to tell them. He lost his finger in an industrial accident as a young man. There was no OSHA. He just said, the boss said, see you next week, John, back on the job. That was before unions. That was before rights were put on books. And ultimately, that's what Starbucks workers are doing. Workers in Buffalo are the spark that's lit the fire of organizing its locations across the country, including 15 Starbucks locations in Massachusetts. The American people are watching. Publicly saw Starbucks similar to hire the lawyers and pay the family paid the price. That is how your workers now feel. They have no rights. They don't want to be like your father, who had no rights. They don't want their families to have to pay the price for their children the way your father had to pay a price for his children. They want rights. Your father couldn't protect himself. That's all your workers are looking for, so they can protect themselves and their families so that what happened to your family does not happen to their family. I don't think you understand that, Mr. Schultz. They're just looking to be someone who can protect themselves.
I think he's right on
He doesn't
that.
give a shit. Howard Schultz doesn't care.
No, do you see his smug little face?
I know. It's just, he is, oh my God. Who told that guy you should run for president?
Well, who told that guy that he would be
unfairly
the
fired
wait a minute,
after
labor
he was injured
secretary
on the job? Your father had no rights, and your family paid the price. That is how your workers now feel. They have no rights.
Okay, that was the same clip. I don't know why that started playing. What I was saying was the start.
He was really serious about it.
So
He demanded an encore.
he demanded an encore. How many people remember that Hillary Clinton had Howard Schultz picked out as labor secretary?
Oh God, yes. Oh my God, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. Oh,
I just
my
want to point
God.
that out.
Oh my God, yeah. It's so funny because how many
Just
times
gonna
has
put
he
that out
stepped
there.
down now? Like, because he recently had to step down
Twice.
again.
I
It's only
believe
been twice?
twice.
Okay, I thought about it.
Maybe I'm wrong, maybe more, but twice that I can think of off the top of my
It's
head.
amazing.
It might be more.
absolutely amazing. And then later he was feeling bad for like the billionaire thing, which he did during the 2020 election too. There was
Right.
that time in the election where
He's
he's
very
like,
privileged.
please don't say billionaire. Say person of wealth. Like, you gotta be kidding me. And by the way, here's the thing. He went on his big little mawkish tangent about I came from nothing. Blah, 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 blah. Here's the deal. And let's just once and for all, point blank, period, end of story. Nobody earns $1 billion ethically. It is impossible.
Right.
It cannot be done. For
I agree.
anyone to earn $1 billion, a lot of people get screwed over in the process. And if you weren't screwing over people in the process, could you make a lot of money? Yes. Could you amass a good amount of wealth? Absolutely.
Yeah,
Could you
but
even
not
get enough
billions.
but not $1 billion?
I agree.
Not $1
I mean,
billion.
most
It is
of those guys
impossible.
are involved in insider trading and all kinds of things. There's no two ways about it.
And that's the tip of the iceberg. They're also
agree.
involved in shady dealings. They're also
Oh,
involved in
100%.
exploiting all of their workers.
100%.
Or the exploitation happens like a second degree or something like that. But
Right.
nobody Nobody makes $1 billion without other people in that sphere getting screwed over
I agree.
royally. It is
I agree.
impossible. It does not happen. End of story. I know that people try to throw their whataboutisms. They bring up.
There is.
people in
I
the
agree with you.
creative
I don't think
space.
there is any.
There are no
They're none here.
whataboutisms. There's a what about Paul McCartney? A lot of people got screwed over in the music industry. Okay,
Oh,
a lot of
100%.
songwriters didn't get their fair deal. Is that Paul McCartney's fault as an individual? No. But if that system didn't exist, he wouldn't be a billionaire. That's the freaking point. Nobody is able to make $1 billion ethically. People either directly or indirectly are getting screwed over. And in Howard Schultz's case, it's directly. He's screwing over them himself. So no, like don't buy his whole, you're mean to me because I'm a billionaire. Yeah, that's because
that was kind of silly.
Screwed over for you to get to that point.
So the other update I wanted to mention in regards to this is Starbucks shareholders. This is important. Starbucks shareholders have now voted yes to a third-party review of the company's labor practices. So now the shareholders are stepping in and saying, yeah, Howard, this isn't working. We're going to have to review this process.
Imagine being such an asshole. Even
your shareholders are like, bro.
Even your shareholders who care about nothing except for their bottom line. Even they.
Well, I think they're worried that it will affect their bottom line. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
That's what they're reacting to, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't necessarily I think they care about worker exploitation per se, but it's now gone to the level where they're concerned about their bottom line. So.
Well, they're concerned about the brand image at this point.
Yeah.
They're probably concerned about the brand image, that it's like, okay, less people are going to go to Starbucks now because you're just you're just a villain. You're just a villain.
You're a villain.
You know, I mean, I
could have been labor secretary. That is damn scary. Every time I see, I know, I just don't know what is happening.
But he did have one great idea. He had the idea. He's like, you know what? Let me make coffee-themed milkshakes. Use some Italian words around them. People will think. People will think they're being a grown-up. No, you're eating a chocolate milkshake for breakfast. That's what you're doing. It's a chocolate milkshake with coffee in it, but it's called a venti something. So you feel like I'm so mature.
Venti,
no, you're not.
You
just paid $9.
With are they that expensive now? Jesus, I haven't had one.
Probably. I don't. I don't
the
really.
Pumpkin ones are good.
Hey, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I've never had a mint frappuccino and enjoyed it. I certainly have. But I'm just saying, call it for what it is. It's a dessert. You're getting dessert for breakfast, but still feeling like a grown-up. That was a recipe for a lot of money.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, again, I'm not going to say I've never done it. I'm just saying that's what it is.
That is what it is. So we have another Fox News video clip on the Trump indictment. Zaina, let's go ahead and play that if you've got it handy.
Did another McDougal come forward?
I don't know.
How many members of the McDougal family are there?
I don't think they're all the same family.
Well, we know about Karen, and we know about her brother Douchesack, who I made up a couple minutes ago. But who else is there?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other McDougals that were involved in another political scandal.
I'm talking about Karen McDougal. I can only keep track of one at a time.
Okay, I got it ready whenever you guys. It's Jesse Waters, by the way, kind of having a meltdown, apparently.
All right, let's see it.
This cannot stand. I actually agree with Jessica. This doesn't feel right. Something feels terrible.
GOP candidate.
That was epic.
Wait, is that the whole thing?
Was that the whole thing? I mean, I liked it. This doesn't feel right. This had a weird aura, man. This was what strain was he smoking?
I don't know. He's always hyped up.
This doesn't feel right, bro. This is weird. I mean, is this one of the Trump's a hero things, right?
Probably.
He's a Trump's a hero guy, right? Like he likes Trump.
Oh, 100%. If he works at
Yeah.
Fox, yeah.
Right.
Of course it doesn't feel right. No,
it doesn't feel right.
I got you.
It doesn't feel right. They should just be able to misappropriate funds whenever they feel like it.
I believe some of them actually think that that's the case.
Of course they believe that's the case.
Like, it's kind of wild to me how many Americans get very upset about, income inequality, quality worker exploitation, corporations not being held accountable for their actions, a la what's happening in East Palestine. But at the same time, they'll continually vote for guys or defend guys that are part and parcel to the problem. I mean, I understand that Trump ran as a populist president, but he's always been a part of the plutocracy. He's always been part of that millionaire, billionaire class. That's never going to change.
That's why right-wing populism isn't real. It's
I hear what you're saying.
Made up thing. It's
in the very least, it's oxymoronic.
He is an OG. Right? If they give me, I mean, he is a badass. If he's got a mugshot, you might as well go right into it. And the thing is, his poll numbers have gone up with this. I just think this is going to make sure he is going to be on the ticket. He is.
So what? He's saying his poll numbers have gone up because he's been indicted? Is that the claim I'm hearing here?
That's what Gutfeld's claiming. I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, it might be the case. They're throwing him up as a martyr. He might not be wrong, although that sort of conflicts with the poll we saw that we put on the screen earlier that said that being indicted would change things. Apparently, yeah, I didn't think that would be ever the case, but wild stuff. So should we question? Should we do our right-wing insanity roundup next? Just a few clips, or do we want to talk about Trump and Waco and play some of the crazy comments that he made during that speech?
Let's do the roundup.
Let's do the roundup.
Start with the roundup.
Okay. So Bobart, our favorite, one of our favorites at least, one of my favorites. She always says crazy stuff. She had something to say this week about public urination when we were supposed to be talking about gun laws. Can we play this clip?
Mr. Allen, based on these statistics, I would like to talk to you about some other things that are going on here in Washington, D.C., specifically an initiative that you led. In November of 2022, you led the charge to reform D.C.'s crime laws. Is that correct?
I chaired the committee that proposal came through.
You led this charge, yes, sir. And these changes are now law here in D.C., correct?
Do you mean the revised criminal code?
Yes.
No, those are not the law.
Those are not the law.
The
revised criminal code was rejected by...
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'm talking to Mr. Allen.
Yes,
Mr. Allen, did you or did you not decriminalize public urination in Washington, D.C.? Did you lead the charge to do so?
No, the revised criminal code left that as a criminal charge.
Did you lead the charge to decriminalize public urination in Washington, D.C.?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever vote in favor of decriminalizing public urination in Washington, D.C.?
The revised criminal code that was passed by the council kept it as a criminal offense.
And you support this?
I voted for it, yeah.
You voted to keep it as a criminal offense.
That's correct. The full council did.
We have records that show that you were in favor of removing that criminal offense and allowing public urination.
No,
Is that something that you intend to pursue in the future?
No. The legislation you're referring to that came from the Criminal Code Reform Commission changed public urination from a criminal to a civil offense. The council then changed that to maintain it as a criminal offense at the request of the mayor.
Thank you. I yield.
Okay. I mean, yeah, eventually you were just like...
It's a very weighty matter of state we're
yeah, no kidding.
Here. Like,
I mean, just for the record, I think it should just be a civil offense. You know, I mean...
Why are we even discussing this?
Yeah, who gives a shit? Who... I thought eventually she was just going to be like, look, I'm not sure whether or not I want to pee in public, but
if
I just want to know where you stand.
Is that a felony offense? Just bizarre stuff. I don't
I think you should just have to pay a fine or something, depending on where it is. You know?
I agree.
I think if you're in a field or something, who gives a shit?
Give me a break. Yeah. Just go ahead and fertilize the apple tree or whatever.
Yeah, there's more important shit going on. If you're on a building or something,
maybe we should be talking about gun laws. I'm just saying. And speaking of talking about gun laws, Justin, who is the editor-in-chief of the Tennessee Holler, we've had him on the show. He went down to the Capitol and dogged some of the Republicans. So I want to play this clip.
Will you yield?
Oh, I'll yield. Yes, please.
Yeah, when I was in 11th grade and Joe Biden made our schools gun-free school zones, one of the students in my school brought 3 guns to school, and our entire...
That's the wrong clip.
Why is that
the one
person
before
sitting
that.
on the
Justin,
ground?
huh?
Why was that person sitting on the ground?
Which person?
In that
Oh,
clip,
Marjorie
it
Taylor
looked like
Greene?
someone-
Oh, that's next.
Was that? All right. I don't know what that was. It looked like somebody was sitting on the ground.
Zainab?
Do we have something else?
No. It's the one right before it. I want to play this. This is a really good clip. He did a really good job dogging. Couldn't get that out. House Republicans in obviously about the shooting that just happened.
Okay, let me see if I can find that one. Give me
It's
just a
on
moment. I have them all downloaded, I thought, but I don't see this one here. So let me check on that for you.
All right. Well, why don't we jump to Trump and Waco in the meantime?
Well,
and come
oh
back.
no, we have other right-wing insanity clips. You want to do those?
All right.
There's
Well,
2
yeah,
more.
Let's jump to another one first then.
Can you play the next one while looking for the other one, or is that possible? I don't know if that's possible. I don't know how the software works either.
Yes, is the next one the one that I was just playing?
Well, you know what? I will go with whichever one you've got queued up. It's fine. I know.
Okay,
what
I'm sorry. They weren't
That's all right.
numbered, and when they download, they download randomly. And when they pulled up in the file, they pulled up randomly, so I just uploaded them. I apologize. Let me get this one for you.
Cool.
Another reason why.
Will you yield?
Oh, okay. That's
That's
not
the
whole...
suit guy.
Yeah, you can play that.
I don't know who that.
Will you yield?
Oh, I'll yield. Yes, please.
Yeah, when I was in 11th grade and Joe Biden made our schools gun-free school zones, one of the students in my school brought 3 guns to school, and our entire school went on lockdown because he was the only person with a gun.
That's not the whole clip. But all right, we'll work with that. So the thing I wanted to point out here, though, at the beginning is when she was in 11th grade, Biden made gun-free zones. That never happened.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
so
in what
I think what
capacity
she
would you have
means
done
is Bush Sr., who did gun-free zones way back when. Bush Sr., not even I'm not talking George W. I'm talking Bush Sr. So we're talking like 30 years ago. He did legislation for having gun-free zones around schools.
So would Biden have been?
And I doubt that Marjorie Taylor Greene was in 11th grade at that time. I don't know. It was just a weird clip, but.
So she just kind of made something up. I mean, well,
She
unless
did.
like, would Biden?
It's even
have
funnier
been,
if you see the exchange between the two of them.
Would Biden have been in a situation where he could have voted on such a thing? Like, I mean, like, would he have been?
I don't
like,
know.
I mean, I don't know when she was in 11th grade, but like, I mean, he
Yeah, I
might
thought it
have
was a
been
little
in
weird.
some capacity, but yeah, that's sort of.
All right, let's just do the next one then.
North Korea is actually a very conservative society. It's very there's no such thing as a homosexual, like open homosexual in North Korea.
Sure.
No such thing as abortion. You know, the North Koreans are very conservative. They're tyrannical but conservative. Where I'm going with this is that what we're exporting, what making available to people, is a gateway to sin. And we need to, in the wake of a mentally ill epidemic, limit the access to the drug. One of the drugs here is more information about where you can change your gender, change your identity, think about life differently. No, how about we limit the access of free thought in this respect and instead raise children up in the way they must go?
I think
I feel like his co-host wasn't convinced.
so. His co-host, you'll recognize her as being the flat earther that's running for
Okay.
Senate.
Oh,
So
that's
we
who that is. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's
his
some
name is
right
Edward
wing
Zoll.
guy.
Yeah, he's a far-right broadcaster, super religious guy. But, you know, again, this is one more example. He's basically saying the United States should be more like North Korea, the United States, or the Taliban. And the reason they should be more like these countries is because of theocracy, right? These countries are imposing very serious sanctions against what are more or less religiously motivated laws, right? Against gay marriage, against abortion, things of this nature. And he admits that this is tyrannical and authoritarian. But again, this is one more example of Republicans thinking that I'm all for, you know, small government unless it's a theocracy kind of laws. I'm all for, like, let's make those happen. it's really scary that this is, they're just saying the quiet part out loud at this point.
Oh yeah, they just don't. Well, I feel like that's happened en masse. I mean, I was thinking about that this week. Like now they're straight up saying the quiet part out loud. Like they're saying the quiet part out loud in every capacity now. When it comes to, I mean, they're straight up saying, there's been like people calling to put transgender people in camps and stuff like that. Like it's getting
for outright genocide of trans folks. It's fucking scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting really freaking bad, and it's because, it's because like people have just passively accepted so much of this stuff for so long that now it's like, full mask off. And I think it's been going on for a long time. This isn't unique to the past few years, but it's like when you kind of add up all the circumstances of the past few years and you look at people like Ron DeSantis's of the country, it's really kind of coming to a head, I think. It's
I agree. I mean, it's theocracy. We're headed for that.
We're there.
We're there, yeah. All right, if we have the
There's
Tennessee Holler clip ready to play, that's the next one. The only one left in this segment. Zaino, were you able to get that to play by any chance?
Iris, what are you guys doing to keep kids safe today? Kids died yesterday. What are you doing today, Iris? You're my rep. Kids being killed in school. How are you making our kids safer? Anything about gun violence? The #1 killer of kids? You're just going to look at your watch? You know who doesn't have time anymore, Jay? What are you doing to keep kids safe today, Tim? What are you doing about gun violence today? Anything? Shouldn't that be the #1 thing on everybody's mind today?
It should be the #1 thing on all of our mind, always.
Exactly.
I have 5 kids.
Exactly.
Fortunately, I passed a bill a few weeks ago that would allow private schools to partner with local law enforcement.
Great.
And
what about
hopefully that school will take...
weapons of war in the hands of other people that could then shoot law enforcement?
There was no weapons of war, and you know that.
There's no weapons of war?
That was not a weapons of war used yesterday.
No? What good does it do, Jeremy, to have assault weapons in the hands of anybody who wants them?
What reform are you proposing? You seem like you've got something. I've done a background check every time I bought a gun. So you have to do a TFA background check to get one. But I don't have time.
In the hands of anybody who wants one? AR-15s are what keep getting used to kill children. Why would anybody need one? I haven't heard a good reason. Can you guys maybe ask him, probably some others in here, why do they need one? Sorry? Doing anything about gun violence today? Limiting weapons of war so that they can't shoot kids with them?
Who is they? Who are you talking about?
Whoever wants one.
I find your question puzzlingly vague. Perhaps you'd like to sharpen it.
Sure, let's sharpen it. What are you willing to do about gun violence, the #1 killer of children?
Gun violence is a non-specific term.
You love to do that. You love to get into the semantics of stuff. I'm asking you a straightforward question.
No, you're not.
And it's going to look ridiculous.
Define gun violence.
When kids die at the hands of powerful weapons that have no business being on the street.
I disagree with you, sir.
What do you disagree with me about?
Everything.
Yeah, exactly. Scott, what are we doing about gun violence today, man?
I'll talk to you at my meeting.
What are we doing to keep kids safe? Anything? 3 kids died yesterday. You doing anything today to keep kids safe? You're not wearing your Confederate flag tie today? What are we doing to keep kids safe, Joey? You got kids? You're a family man, right, Joey? Yeah, all your kids or just some of your kids, Joey? 3 kids died yesterday. Will you support any gun safety legislation, the #1 killer of kids?
I actually have a gun safety bill that for gun safety classes for everybody.
Classes. Are you willing to support any gun safety legislation?
I have not been involved in any of that.
Would you be? Would you be willing to be? Like any gun safety, gun control?
I'm for protecting our children.
Do you think assault weapons should be in the hands of anybody who wants one, Michelle?
I don't think that is allowed right now.
Yes, it is, actually. You don't think that's allowed? You don't think people can buy assault weapons? What state do you live in? You don't know the laws in your own state? That person bought those legally yesterday.
I have not heard all the reports from all that, so I have no comment on that.
You don't care enough to even read the reports, Michelle?
They've not all been out.
3 kids died, and you don't even read the reports, and you don't know that assault weapons are legal in Tennessee, and you're a lawmaker? Vincent, talk to her, man. I know you're a big pro-gun guy, but is there anything anything you're willing to support to limit guns in the streets when
as far as what?
As far as background checks, as far as assault weapons, as far as capacity magazines, as far as red flag laws.
Who has assault weapons?
They don't exist?
Assault weapons.
You're not willing to stand and talk? This is your thing, right?
Assault
and you're just leaving.
weapons.
What are we doing to keep kids safe today, Sabi? Background checks, there's red flag laws, there's limiting high capacity magazines. Staring at that button isn't going to make it go any faster. Assault weapons, anything like that. Silence as kids die. Silence from Tim, too. Hey, Shane, what are we doing to keep kids safe today? What are we doing about gun violence? Is there anything you'd support? Gun-wise? Kids died. Would we support anything?
It's been terrible, man.
I know. So what are you going to do about it? Yeah, it is the right time to talk about it, actually. It's exactly the right time to talk about it. Because it makes you uncomfortable because you won't do anything about it, Shane. Hey, Monty.
Hey, sir.
Do you still think there's no such thing as gun violence?
Get out of here.
You stand by that? 3 kids dead.
What's your name, by the way? What's your name? Where'd you go to school, Justin?
Is there such thing as gun
Where'd you go to
violence?
school, Justin?
I'm asking the questions here, man.
You're just a hippie with a cell phone.
A hippie? Oh, you're one of those guys, huh? A hippie with a cell phone, he called me. Anything happened yesterday that moved you to want to do anything about gun violence? The #1 killer of kids, Dawn? Anything? Maybe you guys could ask her in this elevator what she's doing to keep kids safe from gun violence as kids die. Doing anything about gun violence today, David? Anything at all? Are you unmoved by what happened, David? Shouldn't that be what you guys are focused on today? Kids dying in Nashville? Is there anything that you'll support? Kids are dying, you're a doctor, you're doing nothing. How do you live with yourself, Brian? You too, Justin. You too. Dennis, what are we doing to keep kids safe today?
Yeah, Biden is really doing a great
You're
job.
really going to do that? So ridiculous, man. 3 kids just died. You look insane.
Isn't he the best president we've ever had? Joe Biden is great.
3 kids just died and you're
Joe
laughing.
Biden is great. I'm not laughing about anything. I said Joe Biden.
Play your games another day, man. Not today. 3 kids just got murdered.
Why
are they attacking
you? I don't know.
Because he's making jokes. I'm asking him a real question.
All I said was
he's
Joe
over
Biden
here making jokes.
is a great president.
You think you're funny? You think
Biden
it's funny, Dennis? And the parents of those kids are going to see this video, Dennis. Take your job seriously, man.
Joe Biden's a great president.
The #1 killer of kids is guns. What about some sort of red flag laws or assault weapons ban or limiting capacity magazines or waiting periods? I'm giving you all these ideas here.
Yeah, I know, Justin.
Any of that?
What we need to work on more than anything is man's sinful heart. And when we get that taken care of, then we'll have it.
How are you going to do that? You're going to cure man's sinful heart?
No,
you can't
no,
do
no,
that.
no.
But you
I
can
can't.
make laws
Jesus,
about guns.
Hey, but Jesus can.
Is this a theocracy?
No, not at all.
You're a lawmaker and you just threw Jesus at me when I'm asking you about real laws. And this isn't a theocracy?
Justin, this is a
How many thoughts and prayers have you given?
this is a terrible time for our state and particularly for families that are grieving.
This isn't the time for speeches to the camera. This is the time for action. And you're telling me you're not willing to do anything, Kevin. And it's really disappointing. And it's going to be disappointing to the parents of those kids when they watch this.
I'm speaking to you.
I wish you'd do something instead of talk, Kevin. What are we doing about gun violence?
I'm sorry, I'm on the phone.
Yeah, on the phone. You know, who can't make calls as kids. That's Ryan Williams. He's got a bill to arm teachers and not tell the school district which teachers are armed. Yeah. Anything to combat gun violence?
I'm in a committee. I've got to go to that.
Yeah, it's the #1 killer of kids, and 3 kids died yesterday. Think about it while you're in there.
I'm carrying the school safety bill. We're trying to require schools make sure that they have all the facilities locked at all times and everything.
Right, to keep them safe from what?
Exterior violence.
Using what?
Making sure that the schools realize.
How do they kill children? What do they use? Say the word. They use guns, right? What are you willing to do about guns?
That's a different issue.
It's not a different issue.
Yeah, we're talking.
What are you keeping them safe from? And then you go into the bathroom. The minute I say guns, he runs into the bathroom. You saw that, right? It's like the magic word. They're afraid to talk about it. What are they afraid of? That's the question we should all be asking. What are they afraid of? What are we doing about guns today, fellas? What are we doing about guns today? People support action on guns, you guys. It's popular. Do you guys care that the people support stuff, or does that not matter? I don't think they care at all. What are we doing to keep kids safe from gun violence today? 3 kids died yesterday. Are we willing to do anything? Yeah, I know it's terrible, but what are we doing to stop it from happening again? Anything?
We're going to do that.
What are we going to do, specifically? Anything? Kelly Kiesling, folks. Hey, Paul, what are we doing to combat gun violence today with kids dying? Anything? This is Paul Sherrill. He wanted to rename John Lewis Way Trump Boulevard, and he wanted to bring back lynching. What are we doing to combat gun violence? Huh? Wanted to bring back lynching. Google it. Are we doing anything to keep kids safe today? 3 kids just died yesterday. Are you doing anything about it today?
Hey, guys.
Just high-fiving Antonio? That's what you're doing? You going to talk about which gun bills you support, John?
I don't know what the agenda is.
Okay. Probably not. Elaine Davis, everybody. What gun bills do you support, Elaine? You support fighting gun violence at all? #1 killer of our kids? Background checks? Would you support assault weapons ban? Would you support a high capacity magazine ban? Red flag laws? How about waiting periods? Literally anything while kids are dying, Elaine?
I have an 8.5-year-old son, and I had to send him to school today. And it was terrifying. People in power should care more.
It's not safe for anybody. So please don't say you're pro-life and then vote to put more weapons on the street.
Representative Mitchell, you are...
I will speak.
No, sir, you're under welcome and honoring, and you need to stay. Representative Mitchell, you're out of order.
I'll tell you one thing. There's 6 people today I can't welcome and honor anymore. Y'all just think about those 6 people we can never welcome in here anymore, and just think if your guns are worth it.
Okay, so Justin is amazing. That is Justin. He is the founder and editor-in-chief of the Tennessee Holler. I've actually had him come on the show to discuss some of the trans bills a couple weeks ago. But he does amazing work. And I thought this was just a great video because he really just dogged every single one of these Republican politicians and was asking them what they were going to do about this. And the responses are really chilling and frightful. The guy that said, we're going to cure sin. I mean, really, your responses were going to cure sin?
Yeah, I mean, well,
what kind of a response is that?
I used to live in Tennessee, so none of this is surprising to me. I mean that's what the government is like there. I mean, it is just so, and it doesn't reflect so much of the people. I mean, like I lived in Nashville, and going to the ballot box in Nashville, a lot of times we would vote on these ordinances and these amendments that would like set women's rights back 30 years or or these ridiculous gun laws. 80 to 90% of the city would vote against it. Most of the people in Nashville didn't want this stuff. Right. And then it would pass via the state by like this slim margin, because of just like all the right-wing Koch money and stuff like that. So it's really, it's
the one that was laughing. I mean, like, my God,
that's twisted. And a lot of these people who get elected, they are just empty vessels, and this isn't, I mean, if he was walking around the Nashville City Council, it would have been a much different experience. I mean, I actually have an old friend of mine. She's an open socialist. She's on the Nashville City Council. So I'm certainly
we should have
not
her on the show. I'd love to interview her.
Yeah, sure. Totally. But yeah, I mean, so my point is, I'm not trying to like overgeneralize or make like make a statement here, like in that capacity, but it's like, at the state level, because of just the strong influence of right-wing money and just the huge propaganda campaigns getting people to just vote against their own interests, that is a very common Tennessee-style politician, just an empty vessel, just an empty right-wing vessel, a total theocrat who's clinging to the Bible and guns. I mean, it's like, and that's just, I mean, we would have to go. I remember I had to vote against this ordinance to they were trying to make the Bible like an official state book and stuff like that. No one, like so many people don't want that stuff. And yet, it'll like get through, via like this slim metric or whatever.
I just looked it up. I just thought that you guys would want to know. 52.9% of Tennessee's House seats go uncontested. And went uncontested in 2022, so no one challenged these people. So these people weren't elected.
That's scary.
They just got it. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. It's like there is no there's just the Republican Party in Tennessee. Yeah. Like there is no. I remember there was a race for governor. I forget the guy's name, but there was a race for governor, and there was like this Republican juggernaut. And the Democratic opposition was this guy who had this ridiculous campaign. Like his whole campaign thing was like Lucy holding the football, and like he was Lucy and he was taking the football away. And he's like, oh, we're going to get him this time. He had 200 social media followers, no resources for his campaign at all. He lacked any and all charisma. And as somebody who was not a native to Tennessee, like I had a radio show at the time, and I had some like state, like a state representative on the show. And I was just like, what is this? Like, what is this? Yeah. Like, you've got to be kidding me. This is the and they were looking at me like, what do you not know where you are? This is Tennessee. Like, of course, there's no opposition. Like there's just no opposition at the state level. And it's just, it's comically absurd, and it's just, and that's why these kind of people can just run around the halls in the state legislature, and then like they have no plan for guns, they have no, and as a country, it's like I do not have any confidence we will ever do anything constructive when it comes to guns in this country, because there have been so many examples around the world. Other countries in the world, they have guns. This whole facade that like, oh, nowhere else has guns, that's not true. They just have decent policies around firearms.
They don't have as many guns. My thing too is like, we try to look at what's the difference between the United States and all of these other countries, right? Is what are the common things? What are the differences? So people that want to make it about mental health, I'm like, that just doesn't hold water, because all of these other countries also have mental health issues at the same level that we do, same percentages, same per capita. What we have more of per capita though is guns. So
see, when
yeah,
people
it is
say
the
that,
guns.
when people say that, I just like to be like, okay, cool. So you support universal health care?
Right.
That's always my response. Whenever they pull that card, like, no, but here's the thing. Yes, other countries have less guns because they have better laws around it.
I agree. Yeah, that's
because
exactly
they have regulations on ammunition. Right. They have regulations on where guns can be. They have regulations on who can just carry it. They have laws. They have.
And what do we do in response to mass shootings? We deregulate half the time or do nothing. I mean, it's insane. How many mass shootings have we had this year? And
over 100.
And I'm so tired of people acting like this is no big deal, or it's just the price we have to pay for freedom. No, it's fucking not. And it's not normal freedom. And it's not acceptable. Children should not be dying at the hands of anybody with a gun.
Yeah, imagine your kid going to a shooter drill at school and thinking land of the free.
No, and these things, if you've ever seen a shooter drill, they're horrifying what we do. We are scaring the shit out of our kids in their classrooms to prepare for maybe getting shot by a person with a gun. This is just absolute fucking insanity.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that doesn't have a devastating consequence on our children, on their mental health? Of course it does.
But
you
at
put
least
them in closets and you have some fake guy come in there with a gun and start shooting at them. You think that's not going to affect them?
I know, Tina, but let's be fair here. People care about the kids. They're making sure they don't see the statue of David. So people care. They're looking out.
Oh my God.
They're looking out for our children.
I'm trying not to laugh, but yeah, you're right. Like, that's naked pornography, the statue of David.
Laughed.
But
you were allowed to laugh in that situation.
Okay. That was a good joke.
Laughter was allowed.
Ron, it's just, this is madness all around, that this is where we're at in this country, and it just keeps getting worse. And I can't believe how many people continue to defend this stuff. How bad does it have to get?
I've stopped asking that question because I
mean, we crossed that Rubicon for real a very long time ago.
I mean, it should have ended with Columbine.
I agree.
I mean, it's because when you look at
it
totally could have. We could have a voluntary buyback. We could have, references. We could have better background checks. We could have federal policy. We could have ammunition limitations. We could have particular places for ammunition. There's so many things we could do. We could have it registered kind of like a car. So many things we could do where, hey, if you want to use your hunting rifle to hunt, for food or whatever, you can still do that. No one's stopping you from doing that. Knock yourself out. If you want to have an appropriate weapon in your home, should there ever be an intruder, even though there's a greater likelihood you're going to hurt yourself than an intruder. But regardless, if you want to have that, there's still ways you could have that, but we're not going to have guns getting in the hands of all these kids, of all these mass shooters, regulations on the types of weapons, banning the AR-15s, banning these magazine sales, closing all these loopholes. So many things we could do. In other countries, they have that. You don't have, you don't have Kyle Rittenhouse walking around with a weapon like that. You don't have that stuff in other countries.
Right. All right.
So is it what's the time?
Oh my God,
now?
my dog is in the back of the. We are. All right, so
like we're in right wing insanity zone. I'm just I know you got.
All right, so the rest of right wing insanity we're gonna do if we have time. We are way over the limit. It's already 4. I think I'm gonna save the Waco stuff to do a separate video on.
All right.
because it's
All
a
right.
lot.
Well, I will hand it over to you then.
So Zaina, so let's queue up. So for Right Wing Insanity this week, I have 2 interviews. My first interview, well, I don't know which order they're going to play in. 2 interviews. One interview is with a trans rights activist. She spoke with me about some of the right-wing extremists we're seeing out in the world. And also mentioning tomorrow is Trans Visibility Day. I did a longer form interview with her. Her name is Josie. That we will be premiering tomorrow for Trans Visibility. And then the second interview is with Abner, who is the editor of Left Coast Right Watch. It's about a story he broke about a neo-Nazi that was selling dildos online, but it gets much more nefarious than that. So he broke this news. It's been picked up by both Vice and Huffington Post, but I figured I'd go right to the original source on it. So let's go ahead and switch over and play these interviews. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen multiple, literal in Ohio. Of course, we had some neo-Nazis. In Australia, we had some neo-Nazis. And when we say neo-Nazis, Josie, they're neo-Nazis. They are, holding swastika flags. One of them had a sign from White Lives Matter that said Weimar Solutions, which is kind of wild. So, we briefly talked about how the Nazis targeted, various outsider groups, and they did target trans individuals. It wasn't just Jewish folks that were sent to Holocaust camps. It was those that were mentally.
With trans people.
That's right. Trans people are mentally impaired.
They started it by burning down, a clinic that was studying, people who were trans and people with sexual orientations that were different from straight. Like, they started their entire propaganda arm going after queer and trans folks, right? And then it just kind of escalated to the next group, right? And
that's right.
So it is always been this way. That's why trans people are unfortunately the canary in the coal mine a lot of times. So when these TERFs, these trans exclusionary radical feminists think that we're taking their rights away, they need a history lesson. It was actually trans women that gave a lot of the rights that cis women have today, especially queer lesbian women, in fact, because when we were at Stonewalls, we were at the Stonewall protest or the cafeteria riot, trans women were the first people to get the baton across their head, while lesbians got to get rights after walking over our bleeding bodies. That's the reality, right? And so the fact is that they're trying to exclude us from the movement that we helped forge with our blood and our bodies on the line is hate. It's beyond despicable, because the reality is, if you were a feminist, you would fight for trans women, because when you give trans people generally the rights of human dignity, then you will be surprised how quickly everybody else's dignity gets better. If we pass the Equality Act, it doesn't just give rights to gay and trans folks. It also gives and strengthens rights for sexism. So I guess against sexism, it strengthens the protections against racism. Like, it actually strengthens the laws as a whole, because it makes it more uniform to just affording human rights. That's what they are. So when you are fighting against trans people, you are fighting against your own fundamental human rights, because that's what we're doing. That's all we're asking for. When a trans person argues against one of these bills, what are they asking for? They're asking for doctor prescribed transition related health care. Like, this isn't like something that's like ooga booga voodoo, right? This is just complete healthcare. That's it. It's just making sure everybody has the right to see a doctor and have the decisions with the privacy of a doctor, which is what I thought America was about.
Children's Hospital of Orange County has been targeted by a group of right-wing extremists multiple times now with protests, because they do have a transgender intersex section of the hospital where they work with clinic. So and I went down and I covered one of these protests, and it was mind-numbing for some of these doctors that came out of their conference, and they would come up to me and they're like, who are these people? What are they talking about? I'm like, basically they're saying you are a pedophile because you are providing intersex children with healthcare. And the doctor was like, are you kidding me right now? Do they have any idea what they're even talking about? I'm like, no, they don't, but that's sort of tangential to the point, isn't it? they're reactionary, right? They have these religious, and I'm going to say it, they're religious viewpoints of that you're either male or female, there's nothing in between, and if you're not, you're a pedophile. At the same time, can we point out something that is just this gaping problem, for me at least? Obviously the Catholic priests that have been engaged in child pornography and molestation is a big story. Southern Baptist Convention, also a prominent amount of these individuals were engaging in child pornography and child molestation. But you know what other group has a higher amount of this? Neo-Nazis. We have seen arrests of neo-Nazis, whether it's from Atomwaffen Division, the base, a Groyper now. I have a whole list of them, where these guys were arrested with child porn on their laptops and phones. It's sort of a ancillary charge or point that's not really discussed as a broader picture item. But a part of me is like, are you guys just, engaging in an Olympic level projection because you're accusing people that have done absolutely zero pedophilia, none, as being pedophiles, when in your own midst, in between where you guys are right now, there's huge amounts of people that you're associating with that actually are engaging in child porn.
Yeah, and it just shows how vacuous their rhetoric is, right? Like, they don't care about the hypocrisy. They just want to label us as bad people, right? They know that they're doing bad things. They know people on their side are doing bad things. And we're starting to see some rebound effects happening across the country, where now teachers are not able to talk about straight things sometimes, or now, teachers aren't, like, there are now challenges to the Bible with all these bannings, because they made it so easy for parents to put a challenge and things like that. So we're starting to see this ricochet effect, but really it comes down to the fact that they are creating these extremist people are putting a label on us, not looking at their own home, trying to say, look over there, because we want to make sure that we subjugate them, so we don't have to actually work on legislative policy, right? They want to focus on look over here, while I have nothing going on with the economy. I have nothing going on with public school protections. We're not doing anything for our infrastructure, our environment, all of these things, actual pressing issues, right? Pressing issues. And over here, we're talking about 4 trans students in Utah, not allowing them to participate in sports, right? Like, these are the conversations of the intellectual right? Like, this is what's happening, and we have to push back because this extremist group is taking over the party.
They are taking over the conversation. They're taking over the party. And they're being enabled by, like, some groups on the left that might have maybe not as hardcore opinions of things, but also a level of uncomfortability. How was this word you came up with? Because it's great.
Comfortability politics.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I want to go back to the Washington Post piece, because some of this data is really interesting. Yes. So many have been harassed or verbally abused. That goes without saying. We see that a lot. But I want to bring this part up. They've been kicked out of their homes, denied health care, and accosted in bathrooms. A quarter, that's a huge amount, have been physically attacked, and about 1 in 5 have been fired or lost out on a promotion because of their gender identity. They are more than twice as likely as the regular population at large to have experienced serious mental health struggles, such as depression. Well, of course you would feel depressed if this is what you were, having to deal with. And here's the bottom line. Yet most trans adults say transitioning has made them more satisfied with their lives. So the fact that you have all of these negatives, right? Quarter of them are attacked, losing their jobs, whatever. You're still willing to want to live your truth. Tells me that this is something that is really important and key to who you are essentially, right? It's not something that you're just doing on a whim, as some people would like to say.
The closet is suffocating, right? Like at the end of the day,
the closet is suffocating. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, it's either die in the closet, right, by your own, sadness, right, or try to be a statistic and try to avoid these situations and be the 3 out of the 4, right? But that risk is more important. I mean, is not as important as our own identity. Right. And we're hoping it gets better. But these statistics line up exactly with what the U.S. Trans Survey said in 2015. Right. And that these statistics are very, very real, that you're accosted in public places, you're verbally assaulted, you're refused health care. There's so many situations, sexual assault, as well as, domestic violence. All of these things increase dramatically if you're a trans person, but yet we will be trans because it makes us happier.
We have a story that is about terror, dildos, deviant art, and mass shootings. If those things don't seem to go together, they actually do. And here to discuss this is Abner Hoge, who is the editor-in-chief of Right Wing Left Watch. Your story is breaking news this month. It's been picked up by Vice. It's been picked up by Huffington Post. I think you spent many months actually investigating the story to come to all of the determinations that you did. It's a crazy story, so thank you for joining us to talk about it.
Yeah, glad to be here. It's definitely a story I waited for, but here we are.
Here we are. So first off the bat, terrorgram is not something I've spoke a lot about on a right-wing insanity report. But we do need to get some background on what that is so folks understand. Terrorgram is a part of Telegram. It's a collective group of chat rooms, whatnot. And they are definitely neo-Nazis. They are accelerationists, meaning that they want to promote the demise of civilization, start the race war, replace it with a white ethno-state, the whole nine. So, and these are chat rooms that glorify past mass shooters, past guys that have done hate crimes and whatnot. So that's where this story starts out. So let's start with that. Terrorgram. What do people need to know about that?
Essentially, what they need to know is that it's not as many people as they would think, but it doesn't take a lot of people to do a lot of damage. These are essentially networks and kind of a broad collective network of people who have neo-Nazi beliefs, other kinds of right-wing extremist beliefs, who want to see the world collapse because they imagine that they'll be able to pull the strings once the world collapses and, government systems collapses, and they'll be able to carve out these little fiefdoms and ethno-states and whatever kinds of territory for themselves after the fact.
Right, right. And sorry.
Yeah. Essentially, they kind of share tactics. They share different manifestos and reasonings, and just even like gore images and all of these things to psych people up and get them in a mind state where they're desensitized to violence and feel like that's an okay thing to go out and do, is shoot people or blow up buildings or infrastructure, stuff like that.
Right. And one of the things they also do is they publish what they call a saints calendar. The saints to these folks are, folks like Timothy McVeigh, Dylan Roof, Christchurch shooter, people that have gone in and done hate crimes, mass shootings. They're considered saints or martyrs in this movement. Gore, you mentioned gore. I want to talk about that for a second. A lot of these chat rooms do promote a heavy amount of gore. A lot of them are pagan. Some are even Satanist, I would say. And part of that I've also seen is various degrees of harm against children, child pornography. So there is a massive amount of desensitization to violence and whatnot in these chat rooms. So I think that's definitely part of the story, because we're talking about people that are not only desensitized, they're very much radicalized, capable of God knows what. So that takes us to the opening of your story. There was a recent shooting. A Slovakian guy basically went to an LGBT bar and did a mass shooting and then ended up killing himself. So the heroine, I'm using my scare quotes here, of your story is a woman who is known in Terrorgram as a voiceover person. She basically reads past manifestos of shooters and puts the wavy, what do you call that, wave stuff behind as she's reading it and dramatizes it. And she's also an artist that has posed doing gore art and fangirl signs, all this kind of stuff. Fangirl signs, if people don't know, that's cutting. Sometimes some of these girls will cut the name of whoever they're a fan of into their bodies and take photos of that. So, extreme stuff. So tell us a little bit about how you found out about her, how you discovered who she actually was in the real world and all that.
Well, she had a very long standing and very active presence online. She was a very easy personality to pick out once you know what to look for. I mean, she'd use her real name. She'd use variations on her real name. She'd use the same, what do you call it?
Acronym. Gorehound.
Yeah.
I think she called herself Miss Gorehound at one point.
Yeah. She just used the same usernames over and over again because, I mean, none of these people are very creative, and she certainly wasn't either. But she's somebody who we suspect was radicalized kind of in childhood. Probably, her parents probably had some kind of neo-Nazi beliefs themselves. She's mentioned going to gun shows and stuff with her dad. She mentioned going to, I'll have to pull up the name of the organization, but she went to some, I think, Holocaust denier conference or something as a teenager. Right. And this is all while she was also just in some kind of STEM program that was doing rocket building, and she could have, she had a very good grades, and she could have gone on to work
Did
at
she
NASA
participate in a NASA? Yeah, she was with a NASA student program or something like this.
Yeah. I mean, this is somebody who was a very bright but very disturbed child who definitely needed help, and she never got it. And instead, what she chose to do with her life was, kind of skate by doing marginal things like selling dildos online or reselling clothes, stuff like that. And also she could kind of fantasize about serial killers and, these people who do awful things, and just try to bait and encourage young men into just committing terror attacks. And I think with this guy in Telper, and she succeeded, sadly enough. I mean, I think there was a Vice article, I think, that just came out today or yesterday, where they got the results of some accelerationist analysts, some group of some think tank that analyzes accelerationist manifestos and stuff like that. They basically found out that this guy in the Telperin shooter, he didn't write his manifesto by himself.
Yeah, the English was too good.
Yeah. And there's other signs like they used American and European formats for dates, things like that. A lot of different slang that Americans tend to use and Europeans tend not to. And it was pretty clear that this guy's manifesto wasn't totally written by him. So he was probably kind of pushed into doing this attack by people in this Telegram network. Not sure who.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I did think that was interesting. So the group that you're talking about, just pulled up the article, is for Telegram. So the Bratislava shooter has been referred to as Telegram's first saint, as he was the first to openly acknowledge the group's influence before committing a terror attack. So the shooter did say that he was influenced by folks in this network. So that's a first for that. And the report says that his manifesto was more consistent with the author profile of a native English speaker who is possibly older, well-educated, and from the United States. A far cry from a teenage native Slovak speaker who never lived anywhere else. So they did some sort of language analysis on that. That would not be surprising to me. The name of the group is Accelerationist Research Consortium, and they shared this report exclusively with Vice News. Abner, this would not be shocking to me because what we're seeing now is a lot of global networking going on between Nazis across state lines, right? So the white ethno state that they're looking for doesn't necessarily have the same sort of nationalistic boundaries that we think of as France, United States, Spain, whatever. They're willing to create something across country lines that's more to their liking. So I often see in these Telegram chat rooms folks from all over the country and all over the world talking together. So it would not be out of left field if there were, private chats on the private chats. I've also had the experience on Telegram where I've got invite links from a private chat room. So there's the public facing account, right? Mm-hmm. So Berserker, whatever. Then there's the private chat, Berserker chat. And then in there, sometimes they'll drop links to even more private chats. And that's where they're really planning and talking about, more nefarious things in my experience.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of this stuff kind of works through a network of feeder systems and just filtering. Is like, you'll be, okay, so you're following the channel. Well, do you want to engage people? Well, here's a chat room. Hey, you seem really interested in actually doing something about this. Want to go join our private chat? We'll have resources for you on how to carry out attacks, things like that.
Right.
And
then, of course, they'll screen people. They don't just, say, come on in. So in my experience, they're like, I want to see what color skin your is, where you live. They have a whole entire recruitment process that you go through. But I know you've probably been in these rooms too, and you see some nefarious stuff they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a pretty, loaded process. Somebody told me a story one time about, I think it was Identity Europa, where they had to do these video chat interviews, kind of like we're both video chatting right now. Yeah. Where this guy just had to stand sit perfectly straight with his face perfectly still, while this other guy is inspecting his face and saying, "Oh yes, very good, wasn't too big. That's a good sign." Stuff like that, and it is
Has anyone seen Nathan D'Amico's nose?
Yeah, I have up close and personal a couple times. He's an interesting. Well, that's probably too charitable for him, but
that's charitable. So for folks that don't know, he's one of the founders of Identity Europa.
Yeah,
I picture this happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they do. Is they're very eager for people. They're also very paranoid, and they're also pretty selfish and egotistical, so it's more likely than not that these groups kind of fall apart due to infighting and all of these other things.
True. I mean, right now, a little bit off topic, but I'm seeing infighting between the two factions, what I'm going to call the two religious factions of the Nazism movement, right? You've got the paganists, who we're talking about today, but then you also have the Christian nationalists, right? And this is an insurmountable position to have for the Christian nationalists, right? They're not okay with the paganism. They're okay with Catholicism, right? A lot of Nazi Catholics as well, but paganism, Satanism, not so much.
Well, and a lot of the pagans really, really hate anything Abrahamic because they think anything Abrahamic is
based off Judaism
or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly. It's some wild stuff. All right, dildos. Let's get to the crazy part of this. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the dildo thing was partially how you were able to identify this individual and create the bigger story. But she was selling and hawking various sex toys and dildos online recently.
Well, actually, we kind of had her whole... we had her ID through several iterations of her online personas and presences pretty easily, because again she would use
her real name,
her real name, and talk about where she was, and oh, I live outside of Sacramento and I'm going to Reno for a gun show when she was a kid, or oh yeah, I'm selling dildos and my username is Texas something or whatever. Okay, Dallas, yeah, we know it's you. Because she shared pictures of herself all the time.
Right.
And I mean, the other thing, like, obviously, like how these Nazis all have this weird morality, and here's with gauges and selling, sex toys. Which, I mean, I have nothing against selling sex toys. Like, if she was selling sex toys online, I would absolutely not care what she's doing because
Right.
she's a Nazi.
Right. No, 100%. And, and her boyfriend, her longtime boyfriend, has been arrested for possessing child pornography. So again, this is something we've seen, though, Abner, right? So these guys are the 1st to call out, gay folks as being groomers, pedophiles, whatnot. But there's a history here of right-wing extremists, Nazis, being arrested for other crimes. And then, oh, look and behold, they've got child porn on their phone. They've got child porn on their laptop. So there's definitely a crossover segment where this is kind of occurs with some regularity, I hate to say. So,
I mean,
how do
there's
they
some
square that
nuance
circle?
to that. I've been thinking about this for a while. And,
Okay.
I mean, I think, like, yes, a lot of Nazis and a lot of just right-wing extremists and even just a lot of, like, very bigoted people just happen to be pedophiles. Like, a lot of them are.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll see this, but, I mean, there's bad people who exploit children everywhere.
Yeah, 100%.
And
There is.
so
There absolutely
you
is.
kinda
Not saying
have
there
to-
isn't, but
Sure.
I think it's
mean,
higher per capita in this population, it seems to me.
I don't have any data on it, on whether that's true or not, so I can't really say. I mean, we do keep finding pedophiles that happen to be in these movements, and I just kind of go, oh, gee, what a surprise, sarcastically.
Right. Exactly.
But,
I did actually
don't
try
know.
to find if there was any data, because I've been sort of monitoring and noticing this myself, and the FBI has not kept data on the percentage of these folks that have had child porn. But I started pulling up old case files for Adam Waffen Division, the base. We've had a Groyper now. And it's even Nazis back in the 80s and 90s where these were ancillary charges. They weren't the charges that necessarily made headlines, right? But it's like, wow, here's another. Wow, here's another. So is there something about this mindset? Is there some sort of connection there? I really don't know, but I do find it kind of strange.
I mean, I think there's a lot of it in the study should be done, but I don't have the data. And there's there's kind of a flip side to it that I've been thinking about a lot recently too, which is, a lot of these movements use accusing the other of abusing children as like a recruitment tool. Like even, this anti-trans bullshit that's going on right now is like, oh, on your children.
Yeah.
And I think, I think obviously bigotry is at the heart of all of that.
Yeah.
And if you're not vulnerable to saying, oh, well, I'm just going to believe these things because I want to be a bigot, that's at the heart of it always to me. But I think there's a very real conversation to be had about how powerful of a motivator that is. Like a lot of people get abused as children, and a lot of people have had people in their lives who got abused as children, like maybe not sexually even.
Right.
But children get abused all the time in this country and around the world. And that's a powerful motivating factor, is wanting to stop that. So
wanting to stop that, yeah, or becoming radicalized. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
There's definitely, yeah.
So that does appeal to people.
Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting point you're making. So another thing that she was involved with, she referred to another thing she referred to herself as a gore Lolita, like Lolita as in, young underage girl. And one of the things that she would do as the Lolita, and I've seen this with other individuals too, so I thought this was interesting in your article, is she had anime, right? So Japanese anime And there's a part of anime that depicts young boys, naked young boys. It's a thing, and it's perfectly legal in Japan. I don't think it should be. I think it's child pornography in a sense. But she had apparently a huge chunk of this on her laptop, and she started posting some of it, but then she got run off the site for doing it. Apparently this was a bridge too far. Talk to us a little bit about that, because then after that she went underground, I think what you said, 6 or 7 years before she reemerged recently.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to look back at her timeline to see like when she's gotten offline and when she's gotten back on. But I mean, just like any Nazi, like she gets chased she has this whole history pattern where she'll like try to do her thing, try to like get people to accept that she's doing her like, oh, I'm really into serial killers, and want to like get other people into like Nazism and gore and occult horrible shit, and just have people around her who accept and enable her to be into all of this horrible stuff.
Right.
And then a bunch of people in the community she slipped into will say, hey, wait a minute, this person's fucked. And they'll call her out for it, and then she'll disappear for a while. And that's pretty much what happened with the story, is like, she's just disappeared afterwards.
Yeah, so this happened 3 or 4 times until now. But so let me ask you this. Now, all of a sudden, she's being kind of held on a pedestal, I would say, in Telegram. I think she's quite popular with Telegram folks. So is it that we are at a different time and place right now in the world, in the country, where there's been an increase in accelerationist type viewpoints? Trump, when he ran for office as a, scare quotes again, right-wing populist, appealing to these white nationalists, saying he was going to address income inequality, whatnot, and then he didn't go too far. He was too mild for these folks, right? So a lot of them, I think, have been black-pilled into this sort of a nihilistic belief system where the only thing left is racial holy war, right? We got to tear down the system. We have to have what they call the hard reset. That's what they call it. So is it just that she's more accepted and put on a pedestal now in this particular space and time because the tenor in the world has just changed, and that's where we're at?
I mean, I think after our story came out and after the Huffington Post story came out, what we saw in chat rooms was basically they're kind of mourning her because they recognized how good she was at recruiting for this movement and being like a propaganda tool for the movement.
Yeah.
And I mean, she had to disappear. Like, she had to just stop doing things because she's probably under federal scrutiny now.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, her connection to the shooting in Slovakia is definitely part and parcel to that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any special information about that, but, I assume she's gotten a door knock or something. Yeah. And so she can't do what she's been doing anymore. And
so I mean, do you think she had
a lot of these guys
given this English analysis, do you think that she was part of helping to write that manifesto? I mean, her shtick has been like,
well, I can't really
go ahead, sorry.
Well, I can't really speculate on that because I'm not sure which are the different individuals in that collective that handle those things.
Okay. So there's been no sort of inside chatter about that.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Okay. Because I haven't seen anything. Okay.
I mean, I think she was very well loved by this, community of Nazis. And I kind of think that part of them grieving her loss, like she died or something, is just like, oh, she can't be useful to the movement anymore. I think they all kind of understand that she's done.
Okay. Right. Okay, I see. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, her gig has kind of been like reading these manifestos and putting them. So, and for their saints calendar and whatnot. So it would make sense that she might have had a hand in this. I haven't seen anything in either direction, but I was wondering if you had. What part of the story have we not covered yet? There's so much here. I feel like we hit on the main points. Anything else that you feel like we should talk about? Not really.
I guess just to say one thing. I guess I'll just say one thing about it, really. How do I want to phrase this? I got asked by Chris Mathias when we were just talking over the phone.
He's a
after the
HuffPost writer.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Huffington Post writer who kind of like blew the story up after we broke it. We're just talking over the phone, and he said, well, he just wanted to know who were some of the most like memorable people that you've written about. And I kind of just stopped and thought, none of these people are really that memorable to me. Like, all of these Nazis kind of just follow the same pattern. They're just these people who are dead inside. They're horrible to other people around them. They only help people so that they can enable them to hurt other people.
Yeah.
And they're really just, scum of the earth. And there's not much interesting or compelling about them. I mean, it's kind of hell writing about them if you're somebody who has any creative impulse.
Right. No, I feel you, but it's necessary to keep tabs.
It is. And I mean, they're helping ruin the world, so we have to keep writing about them and keeping tabs on them. But
and also reminding the rest of society that these folks do they're there. This is how they think and feel. They do pose a threat to our society, especially when they're growing in numbers, and I think they absolutely are growing in numbers.
Yeah, but I mean, I think a lot of them really like to see themselves as like these amazing, like well-written villains or something, like these storybook villains. And they're not. They're really poorly written villains. And they're real.
Right. I mean, the Turner Diaries is practically not readable. It's so terribly written. But
oh, it's such a badly written book.
I have to agree with you on that. All right.
So,
wow.
I mean, I just want to say, like, every time I'm done writing about one of these people, I stop thinking about them. They don't cross
for your
my
own
mind
sanity.
outside of
No,
work.
yeah, I gotcha.
No, just because they're just so uninteresting. I don't even care about them.
You're not wrong. I mean, really, and I think a lot of them realize that, which is why if they get to a certain level, they decide they want to become a martyr or a saint, for the movement, and they do these acts of violence. And I think, to point out your earlier comment, it doesn't take a large group of individuals that feel this way to cause a lot of problems, a lot of havoc, a lot of harm. So, like two guys can, do a terror act with nobody else in sight and kill, Timothy McVeigh would be a prime example. And I bring him up. It's interesting now because, Trump just did his speech in Waco. Timothy McVeigh was down. A lot of people don't realize that he was down in Waco handing out Nazi paraphernalia. I mean, the guy was a neo-Nazi.
I think he was. A historian's going to yell at me for this, I think, but if I remember correctly, he was actually selling copies of the Turner Diaries.
Yes, he was. Yes, you're correct.
Waco, right?
He had both. He had Turner Diaries. He had bumper stickers with swastikas on it. He had other flyers and whatnot, but definitely a committed neo-Nazi. And he definitely thought that he would find a home with the anti-government crowd there. And he wasn't wrong. And all these years later, Trump decides to go back there to make a speech. And I think it's because he's trying to make some sort of appeal to that group. Whether it was successful or not, who knows? But it's sort of the tenor of the country right now, right? So I think...
Yeah, I mean, could you make a more obvious choice than saying, like, okay, I'm going to go to Waco for my first big rally in a while?
Right, really close to the date on top of it, right?
And didn't he project a bunch of January 6th footage onto the screens
he
around
played the J6, what they call as the J6 choir opened.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So they're holding up these guys as martyrs as well, and there's definitely an anti-government thread that goes through all of that. Anyway, we'll see. But Abner, I wanted to thank you for coming on to share this story with us. I think it's important because Telegram, even though it's something I've seen off and on the last couple of years, it's not something I've reported on. I've always been kind of shocked by the level of gore, though. Some of the images you see in these rooms are pretty shocking. So it's not surprising to me that one of them has finally brought one of these fantasies to life and become a quote unquote saint. So thank you for doing this original reporting. It was fantastic. And I'm glad to see the Vice picking it up and Huffington Post as well.